just improved, just crossed the line with a 26.2, goes P14, and now the gap is opened up between Carbon Shadow and B-Roy to 7 tenths almost, 6.5 tenths. And as I say that, B-Roy got pushed down, and Dirk got pushed down as well, but both Infratic and Carbon Shadow, who went P14 and 15 respectively. So now Dirk would be out 4 tenths shy of P15. A lot going on here, and apparently the stream has gone offline.
All still live on my end, so hopefully it's just a blip. We'll keep on going and assume that is still the case. Live for me, says Gareth. So there we go then. Might just be some users then having a small problem with Twitch.
Interesting. So it's a Twitch issue, not nothing we can do. But yeah, Gareth, you're absolutely right. Twitch is on one tonight. Seems to
it's not letting
struggle.
him make clips. It's not letting us do things properly. We've got drivers joining who shouldn't be here. It's all working against us.
It's not Twitch's fault, though.
Can we not just blame Twitch anyway? I said, well, maybe not.
We can. Twitch's fault.
Oh dear, oh dear. We can see now Bushy Ants all the way up to P3 now, just 2.5 tenths off of what Alex Gillen has been able to do. So a good effort from them there. Flexi still flexing up in P2, I guess you could say, because flexing. I'm down with the kids. But then in third place we've got Mr. Dale, who's going by the 3 letters of TTV here today. But there we go. Mr. Dale is the Aston Martin currently in 4th place, 3 tenths off the way. Then Jorrit van Heffen, then Sasso, Matty, Liam, GB68, Hayden Gullis, Tiamat Marduk or Ben Daly, Tom, Rasinchai, Infratic, Carbon Shadow, Dirk Chocolate, another TTV, and this time that would be for
B-Roy.
B-Roy, absolutely. And then Hoodie Pete, and then of course that empty seat at the back of the field currently. So Ben Daly improves to another position there. And
we have another improvement. That is from Flexi. Purple, middle sector. 29.1 beats Gillen's middle sector by over a tenth. However, his first sector wasn't that great. He lost 2 tenths to Gillen. So this is mighty close here. If he gets a good final sector out of this, and Gillen's wasn't the best.
No,
he
aborts.
He comes. Oh, he aborts the lap.
Such a shame. You can feel greatness coming with drivers sometimes, and you can just feel that there's a great lap coming, and then all of a sudden it's taken away. Most likely, I would guess here that there's been some mistakes in the third sector that's not been represented on those sector timings we've got there, just underneath the driver's names. So, bit of a shame, but these things happen, of course. I'm sure that they'll improve. If we jump over to their teammate, Liam, down P10 at the moment, they're currently going on their outlap to go for presumably their last run of the session. Of course, in a qualifying session where you're affected by inclement weather, the drivers are more likely to just fuel up for multiple laps, go for a push lap, then a cool down lap, then another push lap, and on it goes. So I would imagine this will be Liam's last time out of the pits here in Q1, unless of course there is some sort of issue that befalls them and they end up falling down the order as a result.
Yeah, possibly, but we're going to see what is going on as we have a yellow flag. That is for Carbon Shadow and Van Heffen retired.
Oh,
that is
on the exit of the final corner, and there is GB68 involved as well. And Carbon Shadow is now disqualified for driving the wrong way. And GB68 gets a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Van Heffen. What is going on right now? Van Heffen is safe into Q2, I would say. I mean, his time is good enough for P5 right now. The reason why he's showing in P15 is because he crashed out. So he will not be better than P15. But Punju is still the one on the bubble in P14 right now. And Dirk Chocolate, B-Roy, and Hoodie Pete can still improve. What has just happened? We're going to need some clips. Gareth, please tell me that you can clip again. That would be amazing. If not, someone else, please clip what happened from Van Heffen's perspective, what happened from GB's perspective. Everything was kicking off there, and we need to see clips.
There we go then. That is the appeal sent out today here by Badger, and I echo the sentiments very much so. And Gareth in the chat as well. Please, Clips, please. Otherwise, he's not going to have an awful lot to do here today, which I'm sure would be great for him in terms of if this was, a salaried position. But unfortunately for him, it is not. So as a result, he's going to want to actually get something done here today, everybody. So make sure you send those clips over to the Stream Clips channel over in Discord. Of course, we've also got the pinned message now in the chat as well. Thank you very much, Harry, for that one. We've got the donate link and then the link to the QR code as well. So if you want to share that around, if you want to pass it around between friends, family, that sort of a thing, that would be absolutely great if you could do so. So up towards the end of this lap then comes Liam. And let's see then what they're able to produce here. Through the final turn they come then. 1 minute 20 seconds on the board now. So between here and the line, is it going to be 3.9 seconds or better? It's a little bit worse. It's a 24.3. So it's not too bad. It's just a few tenths away. And this is presumably in a car with a great deal more weight on board than what Alex Gillen was experiencing a bit earlier on. Now, I've noticed something rather interesting in the timing tower. And I wonder if you've noticed it too, Badger. But we've currently got Mr. Dale on a set of softs in the pit lane ready to go out.
We do. I think at this point, because he is in P4, because he is quite safe up there, he just wants to gamble. He just wants to make sure that if it does dry up, he is ready. And I don't blame him, because I don't see... he's currently P4, so we would need 11 drivers improve beyond his current time. Sorry, 12 drivers, actually. And there's only 13 behind him. So I don't really see 12 of the 13 drivers behind him all improve to a 24.2 or better. So it's a safe gamble to take. If it doesn't pay off, I mean, he may have ruined a set of softs, but he still has at least 2 sets available, possibly 3 if he makes it to Q3. He's still going to have 3 sets available. Plus, this one will not be very used. So it's a smart choice to make for those that are in the pit lane right now. Mr. Dale's the only one making it currently, as Liam goes up to P4. We have yellow flags for both Alpines, as Tom... Oh, no, never mind. One was for Dirk, not for Tom. My bad. As Tom just went past Dirk. The other was for Razin Chai. Let's see if Tom can improve. It was a green middle sector, so there might be an opportunity here, and it is not an improvement. 0.06 of a second he missed out on going quicker. And let's see, do we have anything lighting up green? We have Hoodie Pete in P18. He is lighting up green, but it's not a great first sector, 27.5. He's improving by 0.02 of a second. In the first set, he completely missed the apex there. I think, is he going to take out of this lap? No, he's not. He's going to continue.
Dear, oh dear, 2.2 seconds off the lead. That is still not going to get them up into Q2 at this stage. So, given that there's just about 2.5 minutes left on the clock here, you would think there's going to be plenty more time for Hoodie Beat to be able to get a recharge lap done, and then, of course, go for the big push lap at the end as well. Of course, when the track will be at its best, when the fuel load will be that bit lower as well, and so that could be what ends up being their saving grace. But we'll wait and see, of course. Through up to the line they come now then, so an improvement on the personal best in the first and last sectors, but it's just that middle sector. That's where all those mistakes happened. We caught it on board, of course, seeing what ended up happening with them going down into Aqua Minerale, but at least they managed to get themselves going in a straight line. So there we are then. We've got them currently going for that recharge lap now then. In terms of other drivers out there today, well, the 2 McLarens are an interesting combo here. We've got Safso currently going through, and big back end slide there from them coming out of Tamburello down in towards Villeneuve. And as they navigate their way through here, again, another bit of sliding at the back end for that McLaren. But it's proving dividends, because they are just 0.02 of a second off of what Alex Gillen has been able to manage so far. This is looking like a very, very good attempt from them so far. Bushy Answer's retired from the session as well, though that is a retirement in the pit lane. That's not them crashing or anything like that. Tom has also retired, but Tom, I think, has actually crashed.
Yeah, Tom has crashed on the circuit, and Dirk as well. That is on the exit of Tamburello. That is turn 4.
Have we got someone coming by?
We do have Infratic coming by, yes.
Infratic. Very good.
P11.
Right, there we go. P11.
And We see Dirk on the right, and we see Tom on the left.
Oh dear, oh dear,
Wow.
there we are. We saw them there from the off-board, and it was, just in either wall there. It's, shades of George Russell, Valtteri Bottas a couple of years ago. But
well, a little bit later than that, though.
A bit later in the circuit, absolutely. But in the sense that we've got two cars just completely stuffed in the wall on either side of the circuit that presumably have had a bit of coming together. Would that be your assessment of that, with them coming so soon after one another?
It might very well be that one went off and then the other couldn't avoid. But there was, I think, some either coming together or trying to perform an evasive maneuver and failing at doing so. One of the two. Certainly, I think the two are related in some capacity. Ultimately, we're going to have to wait for clips. But that now means that we only have Hoodie Pete and Punju and Razin to look at. If all three improve, then our eliminees are Carbon Shadow, who has been disqualified, B-Roy, Dirk Chocolate, and Tom. Ooh. And that's it.
Very interesting. We've just seen on board with Infratic that they have elected to go into the pits. They would have improved on that lap, and it would have made them that bit more safe.
Yeah, but it's over. Hoodie Pete has actually invalidated, so we have our 4 eliminees. It's Dark Chocolate starting P16, B-Roy P17, Hoodie Pete P18, and Carbon Shadow P19. So all the other laps, they will not matter. Even if there's improvements there, it's only for bragging rights at this point. As we have our eliminated drivers. Alex Gillen goes P2, a 10th down on Flexi, who is really flexing on the competition here. I'm so sorry. And finally, we had Matty D crossing the line, remains in P10. Don't know if he actually improved on his lap, but that is the end, and he did actually improve. He improved by about 600th of a second. No position, but a little bit of lap time there. And don't forget, GB68 with that 5 players grid penalty after the incident with Van Heffen. So we have to keep that in mind as well, as a lot happened in this Q1 here. But we have our 13 drivers. Yes, you heard that right. Our 13 drivers heading into Q2. So only 3 eliminations, because Van Heffen is guaranteed to start P14 and Tom is guaranteed to start P15.
So there we go. So let's throw over then to our man down on the ground, our pit lane reporter in charge of the clip book. It is Gareth. Gareth, what can you tell us? And if you give me 2 seconds so we can reset all of your feeds.
Yeah, well, it's a couple of silly incidents that I have for you, really. So the first one involving Benjamin Daling, Tim McMurdoch. It involves GB, and it involves Jorrit van Greffen. And I feel sorry for Jorrit here, because he's really cast asunder by a bit of squabbling between Tim McMurdoch and GB. If we jump into this clip, we can see these two, GB and Ben, just vying for track position as they go into it, and it's actually a coming together, or a bit of a sparring off at the Ravazza 1 corner. Here we go, and you can see Jorrit coming in on a hot lap behind, and these two aren't paying any attention, crash into one another, and here comes Jorrit, and Jorrit's day is about to go very, very badly here, with GB just getting in the way a little bit and into the wall, and we'll jump back. We'll jump over onto GB's view of the incident, so we can have a little bit of a different view, and you can see what happened to Jorrit. So GB's off the track, he returns to the track. Jorrit coming around the corner, very hot. He doesn't want to see these two squabbling, and he gets too early on the traction, and that is the end of his qualifying day. And let's just jump over to Jorrit's view of that too, just to round that out. He just sees GB get big online, and it's just that little bit lack of concentration out of Ravazza, and he's furious. He's absolutely fuming with that one. Finally, we'll just jump over to Dirk Chocolate and Tom coming together here. So Dirk has a bit of a moment through Tamburello, the exit of Tamburello. Very, very tricky on traction in dry conditions. It must be difficult, but then returns to the track and Tom is caught up in that collision as well. If we switch to that as well, Tom is just here and coming around the corner. Dirk throws himself into him, wheel gone, and that is the end of their day and a dramatic end to qualifying 1. Let's see what happens in the next qualifying session.
Let's see, indeed. Yes, thank you for those clips. There's an awful lot of shouting that's happened already so far in this race weekend between all of our drivers then. So, taking a look at what's going on here, well, as you can see, we've got some of those drivers missing then, as we pointed out a little bit earlier on. Let's jump on board then with Alex Gillen, who has just started their lap time to set our first soft tyre run of the day. Everybody going out there on those softs, as it seems. So down in towards...
Well, nope. Razin is on Intus. He is honouring the Intermediate Championship in Q2 here. I respect that. And Liam is on Intermediates as well, but hasn't left the pit lane yet.
Oh, and Alex Gillen round! Gillen goes round, does a perfect pirouette off into the gravel, and that then means that any hope of getting a time done on this occasion is completely scuppered.
Yeah, that is something you don't see very often from Alex Gillen. I think when you look at that helmet, he was a bit like a fish out of water here, now that he has stopped raining. Once again, I apologize for that horrendous joke. But yeah, you don't see that very often from him. Does he have enough fuel for another run? I think that's the question to ask, and the answer is, I don't know. He doesn't have the telemetry enabled. But it seems like the red fuel light is not on yet, so he might just be able to harvest enough battery and go for... Yeah, the red fuel light is not on yet. He can go for another lap. Will he do that? The answer is yes, he will. Yes, he absolutely will.
So there we go then. They are off once more. Matty sets our opening pace then, a 1:16.2. Then Gillen, of course, 8.5 seconds off after that mistake at the end of the first sector. Next, I believe, to cross the line is going to be Mr. Dale, but it looks as though they invalidated just that time. It looked as though they were just that little bit far. No, they're going to continue on regardless. Oh. And up to P2 they go, just 600th shy of what Matty has been able to do so far. So, good time from them. Rasin Chai, interestingly, still going out on those intermediate tyres, has found that they are very much not operating at the same performance level that they were in the previous session. 3 seconds off the pace so far for them. Next up, let's take a look. Well, Badger, direct us to somebody who's out on circuit on a time lap at the moment, who's looking good.
Well, that would be Bushy Ants, who is just coming through Rivazza right now, and he is looking good. I wouldn't say great. First sector, actually. Hold on, are these... No, what? Yeah, what is that lap time?
Goodness gracious.
That's not Bushy's typical pace. Maybe he's just adjusting to... or maybe he just had a bad first sector, because I can see his first sector split was already 2 seconds slower than Alex Gillen, who has the purple first and second sector, and now the final sector as well. Never mind. Bushy has the purple first sector now. Hello.
There we go.
There is something going on. There is something afoot here with Bushy Ads. So that first lap was just a second warm-up lap, maybe? That's what it seems like to me. And now he's actually going for it proper. So heading through Aqua Minerale. Looking nice and tidy through there. What's the second sector split say? It is a 26 flat. That is purple again. Purple first, purple second. Gillen seems weak there in P1. I think there is a good chance Bushy is going to obliterate that 16 lap time. You could very well end up seeing a 1:14 here. Not quite, but it is a 15.8 from Bushy and 10th and a half, maybe 2/10. Okay, yeah, because the second time wasn't properly updated. That's why I was a bit confused. But very, very strong indeed by Bushy Ants. 25. No, that started 25.5 in the final sector. What is this? Why is everything messed up right now? No, that wasn't 25.5. Why is everything in my telemetry messed up right now?
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it's you know, it could be worse. It could be raining inside of your house. That could be, you know, that would be worse.
Give me 1 second, let me check real quick. Nope, it's dry. It's dry.
Excellent, good. That's what we like to hear. So we've now got 8 times on the board. Not quite all of them representative. In particular, Ben Daly, of course, not having the greatest of runs the previous time around. 1:28.6 was their time last time round. That is, of course, 12.7 seconds off of what the ultimate pace is. Now, they have set a green first sector. Let's see then what ends up happening here. And now, Badger, correct me if you feel like I'm wrong here, but it seems to me that my observations have been throughout the time that I've had in this series so far is that qualifying not his strong suit. Sets the car up far more for racing conditions and being able to go racing effectively with other drivers than necessarily going for the out-and-out pace in qualifying. Still very quick, don't get me wrong, but there have been the occasional bum days where they have been trying to get a good time, been knocked out in Q1 or Q2, and therefore not been quite up in that top-line flight. Here today, given that there's only 12 cars competing in Q2, therefore 2 of them are going to go out and the rest will continue, you'd have to say 13. That's a much more likely scenario for them to go through, and they've now just gone ahead and set a time in the 15s, just half a tenth off of Bushians.
Yeah, we have 13 drivers, so 3 will go out. But other than that, yeah, I would agree with that assessment. I think qualifying for Ben Daly, not exactly his strong suit. It's more so the race and the race pace and the racecraft and the IQ where he really shines. And we have seen that a couple times, you know, with some early exits. Q1, Q2, you mentioned it. So I would agree with that overall. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have some good qualifying performances in him. He certainly does. He just needs to, you know, dig deep to find them. But seems like right now, P2 in Q2 so far with a 15.9, certainly a very strong lap from Tiamat Marduk.
Absolutely, and we can see on screen right now then, one driver who's currently not set a time at all, and is 1.2 seconds down on Bushians, is their teammate, in fact, through the second sector now, just completing that, and down through the third sector, so from the highest point in the circuit to the lowest point, and that is Hayden Gullis on screen right now then. Let's see what they're able to do through Ravazza 1, down towards Ravazza number 2, and as they power out of that final turn, then use as much exit curb as they dare, and now up to the line they go, shortest distance they possibly can, and it's P10, so 1.7 seconds off of the ultimate pace so far. They don't have enough ERS to go for another push lap this time, so they're going to need to either recharge and go again, or I would suspect more likely go back into the circuit, into the pits rather, and get a new set of tyres on.
Yeah, I think for a lot of drivers, they're going to have to find improvement. Really, only the top 4 I would consider to be mostly safe. Everyone else will have to fight for it in these last 5 minutes and 40 seconds. Even the 16.2s from Matty D and Mr. Dale, I'm not fully sure that they are safe. They look good, and this is, you know, sort of where I would expect the cutoff to ultimately end up being maybe a little bit below that, 16.3, 16.4 potentially, and they are safe, but it's certainly a gamble at that point. But everyone below, Infratic P7 with a 16.7, and then beyond that, they are definitely not safe, and there have to be improvements coming from those drivers if they want to make it into Q3, that is. We'll see if they are capable of that, as Razin goes with a 24.4 in the first sector. Am I being fooled here by my own telemetry again?
Big snap at the back end for
No,
Razin
I'm not.
there.
Yeah, 26.3 in the middle sector. That's very good as well. It's about 5/10 down on Bushy. This could be P7 with a 16.3 potentially. Depends a bit on the final sector, which was even better than expected. P5. Would you look at that? Beats Matty D and Mr. Dale. Very, very strong final sector there coming from Razin Chai. In fact, better than Bushiance's final sector. So if that tells you a little something, then yeah, that was a fantastic final sector from Razin Chai. And we also got Flexi on mediums. Again, I've said this a couple times over the course of the Creator Series season. I strongly advise against using mediums in qualifying because they are a fantastic race tyre, and you're literally taking the best laps out of this tire early on in a session where it doesn't really matter as much. It doesn't help you. The softs are not that great of a race tire. They are wonderful for qualifying. You can just use them. It's totally okay. But Flexi decides now he wants to go mediums here. The delta between the tires, by the way, is just over half a second between softs and mediums. So whatever time Flexi is going to set here, just take away half a second. That's what he would have done with soft tire grip. And he finishes with a 16.7. That gamble might not pay off because 16.7 is not enough. And now take away half a second. He's right where Matty D is, 16.2. So, yeah, I'm not sure this gamble was right, as more and more drivers are now coming out of the pits and trying to improve. GB68, 2 green sectors, middle sector 10th down on Bushy, first sector 2/10 down on Bushy. So overall 3/10. That could easily challenge Mr. Dale and Razin for P5 and 6.
Through the final turn they come then through to Vatsa 2, GB68 up towards the line. Where are they going to end up slotting this Aston Martin? It's P5 for the meantime. They do beat their teammate, Mr. Dale, and they're able to beat Rasenchai, Matty. Matty has now set what is presumably going to be one of their final times as well. They've just come across the line there, according to our graphics. Now then, and another interesting rallying line there from GB68, copying the school of Fabio a little bit earlier on, of course. Currently out on an outlap is this driver just here, Punju. Now, they've had a much better time in this race weekend than we have seen from in more recent times. They've been a little bit more of a struggle, really, and I hope they don't mind my saying that, but in the previous couple of rounds that they've been in, they've been sort of more down towards the back end. They've been out in Q1 or Q2. This time, it's looking as though if they're able to put a decent lap together, they may well be able to beat Flexi's time here and then get themselves up into Q3. It would be a great turnaround for this driver.
Certainly would. Punju has, and I would agree with you there, he has been struggling a bit to find his pace in the Creator Series so far. But this might be the wake-up race for him, or the wake-up weekend, or the wake-up race day, I guess, for Punju. But the lap still has to be made. The lap still has to be set. And so far, he has just embarked on this lap. Let's see what the first sector is. 24.7. Not even green in the first sector. But only 14 thousandths down on his own time. So it's not as bad as it seems. But he's already 5.5 tenths down on Bushy's first sector. So that's over half a second right there. We look at the middle sector through Aqua Minerale. Misses the apex there a little bit. Oh, and a massive moment. Yeah, well held. But for the lap time, that's not great. Still up a 10th. That's not enough, though, as we also have Flexi out on track in Rivatsa right now, trying to improve and actually improving in the first and second sector. Let's see what that medium lap time is going to be, and that is an immense medium lap. Where did he take that from? Punju now coming through the final quarter and to the line, 17-0, no improvement. That is Punju out. That leaves Hayden Gullis and Liam. Liam is cutting it thin. 15 seconds left in the session. This might not quite work out. 13, 12, 11, 10. Oh, this is going to be mighty close.
So close round Rivatsa 2 he comes. 4, up towards the line.
3, 2, 1. No checkered flag.
He's allowed. He's allowed.
Wow. And Hayden Gullis has invalidated.
Effort.
Hayden Gullis has invalidated, so Punju and Gullis both out. Liam or Infratic. Liam or Infratic. Who is going to make Infratic is done. 16.3. That, oh no!
Liam with their most heroic effort to try and get it into the last lap to get themselves into Q3. It's all fallen apart for them. No time set in Q2. Into the wall they go, and they spare the blushes of Punju and Hayden Gullis, both drivers who could have potentially been down in another position here today. Rasenchai has gone fastest of that session with their final effort, and well then, that has been a rather remarkable end to qualifying. Now Punju here, they're still on a lap technically, but I would suspect that this is not going to be any improvement at all.
No, that's a slow down lap.
It's very much a slow lap.
It's
So
already
there we
10
go.
seconds behind, and he's not even through the final corner. So, yeah, session is over. Please just cross the line. Why are you entering the pits? You're just prolonging it.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
But
Well, I'll tell you what
Razin,
then. Let's run
we
through
need to
the
talk
full...
about Razin.
Yeah,
Real
absolutely.
quick, 15.7 there at the end. It's not worth anything. He would have made it through without that. But for bragging rights and to make yourself the favorite potentially, that is an incredible lap from Razin Chai. 15.7. 10th and a half on Bushy Ants, 2/10 on Tiamat Marduk.
Very good lap time indeed. We've got then, to give you the rundown so far in this Q2 session, and who will go through into Q3. We have got Rasin Chai, Bushy Ants, Tiamat Marduk, Flexi, Sasso, Gillen, GB68, Mr. Dale, Matty, and Infratic all through to Q3. And then we've got... in 11th down, out of this session, Punju, Hayden Gullis, and Liam, of course, there. Liam, what might have been for the Haas driver. And then for Flexi, well, it's an interesting effort there to get themselves just 2.5 tenths away from Rasin Chai on a set of medium tyres. What do you make of that one?
That is an incredible lap. I would say Flexi is the favorite here, but that is incredible. I mean, take 4, maybe a 15.5. That being said, I see some people already saying, there's some dodgy stuff going on. We've got another Jamie Mells situation. Be very careful, people. Don't throw around these kinds of accusations so easily. There are a couple of factors you have to take into account. One, what Gerard Van Heffen is actually mentioning in the chat there, track temperature change. The track evolution certainly helped him. The time set by Flexi came a lot later than the time set by Bushy Ants and Tiamat Marduk, for example. So track evolution definitely plays a role here. Also, ultimately, the difference between the tires, as I mentioned, it's about 0.5 of a second between softs and mediums. It's not that big. It's not like, oh, you should be a second slower. It's just half a second. A 15.4, I think, for someone like an Alex Gillen, a Bushy Ants, if they had gone out for another lap at the end, if they had the need for that, they could have easily gotten a 15.4. And I actually reckon here in Q3, the pole time is going to be better than a 15.4, and probably by a couple of tenths. So, yeah, once again, ladies and gentlemen in the chat and in the F1 community, please, this is a PSA, right? Public service announcement. Please, please, please be very careful when you throw around cheating accusations. Don't do that willy-nilly, because that actually means something. And in this case, things can easily be explained by the way I just explained them.
So there we go then. The authority on these things is Badger, and so away
it
we
wouldn't go that far.
for our next session then. So we've got a prediction from Setar saying a 15.2 pole time incoming. Ben has said, however, that a 14.9 is going to be possible. So we'll wait and see then. Let's see who is best in terms of predicting where everybody's going to end up. If we do get into the 14s, that'll be quite a special moment, I think. In terms of all those drivers then, why don't we take a look at Ben Daly as they come up and around then. They're not going to be the absolute first driver out onto the circuit. However, they are the ones predicting that 14.9. So you never know. It might be that they are the ones to deliver that particular time for us. Who is out there at the front of the queue at the moment, Badger, so we can talk
that
through
would
lap?
be that would be Matty D13, who is just starting his first attempt here. I would assume, I can't actually tell, but I would assume on used soft tires, as we would see most of these drivers. And I can tell you right now, we will definitely be able to see who is on used and who is on new soft tires. The lap time will make that clear. Matty D13 now heading through Villeneuve, 5 and 6, and into Tulsa. 24.2 in the first sector. That is a good start to the lap there from Matty. Now headed towards Piratella. Turn 8. It's a tricky corner. It's one of my favorite corners personally. It doesn't look like much, but the amount of speed you have to carry through there and the precision it requires is just beautiful. And it sets up to this right here, Aqua Minerale. Another wonderful corner. This is why I love this circuit so much. Every corner is different, Every corner has character as we now go through Variante Alta. And the middle sector from Matidi is a 26 flat. Very strong again. Not quite purple. Both sectors have been taken by other drivers. First by Bushians, middle sector by Gillen currently. And final couple of corners through Ravazza. Matidi 13. What's the lap time going to be? A 15.9. That should be new tyres. That should be new softs. Mr. Dale, I think, was on old tyres here with the 16.5, and indeed he was, as Alex Gillen goes with new softs with the 15.5. That is definitely new tyres. Bushy Ants as well. You got to remember, most of the drivers or all of the drivers saved themselves a set in Q1. It was raining, so they didn't need the soft tyres. So they should have 2 sets of new soft tyres available. Whether they use them, it's a different question. You might want to keep yourself some for the race.
Absolutely. So there we go then. We've got Ben Daly then crossing the line with a rather slower lap time there, but it's all, I would imagine, getting ready for this one. Full ERS battery ready, and they go on to full attack, though maybe a bit too much attack there as they go over the exit curb out to Tamburello. Down towards Villeneuve we go then with the McLaren on board now, and they go through Villeneuve, expertly navigating their way through there, and down towards Tosa. 4/10, however, off of the pace set currently by Bushy Ants in that first sector. And now as they start to rise back up the hill and towards Piratella, let's see then just how much commitment we can see here from Ben Daly. 6th gear through there, not quite on the rev limiter all the way through. Maybe 5th gear might have then carried a bit more revs through there, but ultimately in that higher gear, less chance for wheel spin, and therefore a bit more of a stable car underneath them. Buck up and through the Aqua Minerale we go then, down towards the Variante Alta, and they've lost just another 10th or so in comparison to Alex Gillen's time there. Bit of an oversteering moment too. I would imagine these are going to be used tyres from the bit of a scrappy attempt we've seen here from Ben Daly, but down towards the end of the lap we come into Ravazza number 1, using that entry curve, braking downhill in a straight line before just chucking the car in. Then through Ravazza number 2, a little bit wide of the apex, and then up to the line comes Benjamin Daly, and across it will be, and it's P5 for the McLaren this time round, 6/10 shy. And so they lost about a 10th of a second in both of the second and the third sectors, but that first sector, that was really where most of the time was lost in that lap. 4.5 tenths in the first sector alone.
Yeah, and if I can bring some more worrying news, and yeah, Mega Gamer in the chat is exactly correct. I've seen that as well. Ben Daly is on new soft tyres. This lap was on new soft, and it was a little bit wasted there with that first sector, as you mentioned, 4 tenths down on Bushy Ants' first sector, and even on Alex Gillen's first sector, 3 tenths down. So not that great. That moment on the exit of Tamburello definitely cost him quite a bit there. We'll see how he can. We'll see how he can recover. I can't speak anymore. That's way too early for my speech to give out. We still have a whole 100% race ahead of us, so gotta get it together. As Flexi goes P1 with a 15.3. Hello. There we go.
That's
and he
more
proves,
like it.
yeah, he proves that 15.9 on mediums was not a fluke. Definitely very, very strong indeed. And yeah, that I don't think that'll be the eventual pole time. I think there's going to be improvements. Again, I do reckon that Alex Gillen has a little bit left in the tank, as does Bushy Ants. Safso probably as well. Tiamat Malik certainly. I mean, again, if you lose 4 tenths in the first sector alone, there are opportunities afoot. So wouldn't be surprised if we see something there. But the theoretical best time currently is actually a 15.1. It's a high 15.1, 15.19, but a 15.1 nonetheless. So there is still improvement to be found for most of the drivers. Depends a little bit on the setup as well, though. So maybe that 15.1 is just the strength of different drivers in different sectors. You never really know. Well, you can make guesses, but you never really know. As Flexi is heading back into the pits, as is everyone. And
with the exception of Mr. Dale. Mr. Dale out there on a lap, just starting now, having done their outlap. They're now into the thick of it. And so through the first corners they go then through Tamburello, and it looks as though everything nice and simple, nice and easy for them there, down towards Villeneuve, making use of all the track and a little bit more on entry as they then try and open up that corner as much as they possibly can. It all results in being 3 and a bit tenths down on Bushyants in that first sector. And of course, Bushyants not the absolute fastest car out there at the moment, but they have the fastest first sector. Up towards Piratella then we go. Turn 9, and as we then chuck it through there, then it keeps winding on down as we go back downhill and into the Acqua Minerale. And then as we then go through here, one of the lower parts of the circuit, we then dip straight back up into the hill and up towards Variante Alta. Up towards that corner we go, then braking just about that 50-meter board, and then just throwing the car through, making those sausage curbs as well threatening as an actual sausage. Over the rise they go, then down towards the last couple of corners through Ravazza 1. Car looking nice and well behaved at this point in time. Through Ravazza 2, do they manage to hit the apex? Yes, they do. And now up towards the line goes Mr. Dale. What is this time going to be? It's 2 personal best first sectors, and in the final sector it is actually a loss in time, not a best final sector. That puts them P6 currently, with the devil's number off of what Flexi has been able to achieve so far. And with all that we're seeing here, of course, other drivers out on circuit right now. We've got Matty currently on circuit, though that being said, are they currently on a good time? We'll wait and see. No, looks like they're very slow in that first sector, so we will look elsewhere, and in particular, we will take a look at Rasin Chai. Well, I can tell you now, I don't even have to wait for the timing delta to update itself there, and we can definitely tell that is a slow lap that is going on there.
Yeah, Matty not improving either. It goes yellow in both sectors so far. And, yeah, obviously we've seen what happened to Razin. And Matty actually takes out of this lap. Tries to go for another one. Doesn't have the battery charge, though.
Sorry, just saw that Rasin Jai decided, yeah, do you know what? We're going to just take another one of these rallying lines across the circuit here, just to be able to make sure that they can get themselves back. Now, the question will be, do they go for the opportunity to pit, or do they instead go for the lap? They're going for the lap. Of course, with 2 minutes or just over 2 minutes to go, it's not going to be enough time now to get another lap in, as Gareth is pointing out in the chat right now. Far, far, far too late to come into the pits, get yourself serviced, and then back out there again. And so Rasin Chai sets off on a new lap, but the back end is gone, and it's all over for Rasin Chai. The best that they will be able to do in this one, I suspect, is going to be that P8 that they currently find themselves in. For Mr. Dale, they have now retired from the session in P6. Alex Gillen is in the pits too, and will not be able to get out and get another lap in, I suspect. That being said, though, they've just started to leave now, and we've now got a migrating host situation.
Yeah,
oh dear.
Dirk had a disconnect, and that's generally not good, but I think we can continue with the qualifying, and then we just reconstruct the qualifying order for the race if we have to redo the lobby. But yeah, the game froze for him, so the qualifying is going to continue for now, despite the migrating host. It shouldn't be that much of an issue. Matty D has invalidated, is still trying to go for it, surprisingly. And who else do we have?
We've got Bushyants just starting a lap, and down in towards turn number 1 then. Could this be our pole lap here today through turns 1, 2 and 3, and now down towards the next one, that being the Variante Villeneuve. Through into this chicane we go then, and the car not even needing all that much of a braking, just lifting off, slamming down the gears, and that means that all in all, it's an 0.08 improvement over their own fastest first sector so far, and that is a great way to open up their gambit for the potential fastest lap in this session. Up through Piratella they come now then, making good use of the curb, but not hitting those sausage curbs on the inside, so that then keeps the car a bit more stable. And here they go then, hitting absolutely every curb they possibly can. The most precise that you've seen of any driver so far this weekend, and that's now 0.06 up on Flexi as they come through over the top of the second sector, now into the third. Through Variante Alta they go. It didn't look like the absolute quickest that we've seen people going through there, though, so is that where they potentially lost the time? Is this where the pole lap is potentially ruined? Through the Ravazza 1, wide of the apex, through Ravazza 2, bit better that time, but not as precise as the first half of the lap had been. Up towards the line comes Bushyants. Will this be pole? Provisional or otherwise, it is provisional pole by 0.07 of a second, but it was not their personal best final sector, never mind the fastest final sector of anybody. So let's now take a look and see what is happening elsewhere with the likes
Flexi
of
has invalidated.
Flexi. Oh dear. Flexi has invalidated, so it's now the chasing pack then. Whose responsibility it is.
Gillen is on an improvement as well. 900ths of a second in the first sector. Personal improvement. Middle sector, 3/10 up. That can challenge Bushy very easily. Good variante Alta here. Gets on the throttle nice and early. Takes it very clean. This could very well be it. If he nails Rivatsa 1 right here, and he hits that apex beautifully. Second apex as well. This could be a 15 flat. Maybe into the 114s for Alex Gillen. It is not quite into the 114s, but it is P1 for Alex Gillen. Razin Shai has invalidated. We are just waiting. We're waiting for nobody. It's over. That's it. Alex Gillen on pole position. Alongside him will be Bushy Ants. Flexi P3, Safsa P4. Tiamat Marduk will start in P5 as GB68 has a 5-place grid penalty. Matty D 13 in P6. Mr. Dale starts in P7. Razin P8, Infratic P9, and then GB68 will start in P10.
So there we go then. That has been everything was there. And so there we go then. That is Alex Gillen on pole position again in the Creator Series in their first race in red for Scuderia Ferrari. So then Bushy Ant, Flexi, Savzo, GB68, Tiamat Marduk, Matty, Mr. Dale, Rasin, and Infratic make up your top 10. We will wait now, of course, to go down into the race session. And a question I have for a member of our team, who I'm sure has been listening along patiently and should have identified that I'm talking about them by now. And I'm hoping that they will unmute in response to that. But Gareth, do you have any clips for us at all?
Yes, so coming out of the back of that Q2 session, Q3, we had Hayden Gullis, of course, invalidating his lap, and we can see his reaction for that now as he came down into Akma Minarani. It was really fine margins here. You can see on screen a disbelief flow over Hayden's face when he sees how close that was. It was absolutely millimeters there. There we are. That's the invalidation right there. It's almost not an invalidation. Yeah, the other thing that I wanted to highlight was Liam's crash. He's been race engineered today by Baby Yoda, and coming into the Villeneuve chicane, just a little bit of too much curb was the issue into the wall, and not even the force could save him from that one.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, I mean, sometimes the force is with you, and sometimes it is with the wall as you crash into it. And that certainly was the case here for them today. Unfortunate, of course. Thank you very much, Gareth, for that. And we are migrating host once again. So let's see then.
Yeah, I think this is a lobby reset.
Okie dokie. Well, I'll tell you what then. In tradition of what we've been doing here today, let's quickly just pull ourselves back up here, Badger. So first of all, great qualifying session. Very, very good fun indeed to see the drivers going hell for leather out there. But of course, whilst it's all very fun for us this weekend, it is not fun for people living in the Emilia-Romagna region in Italy. So please, 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 we're going to flash up that graphic again as we wait for the lobby to reset. It shows you the QR code that will allow you to get involved. It gives you web links as well and other bits of information. If you can, please, please, please donate, and then hopefully in doing so, maybe you'll be helping somebody out there in Italy. In the chat as well, Harry has just pointed out some of those links too. So we will be right back with you folks. We will wait until we've got our lobby reset. Right then, folks. So, welcome back to the Creator Series. Just to remind you, as we have now spent about an hour and 40 minutes getting ourselves through qualifying and into the race, with our fourth lobby of the day. We were having a little chat behind the scenes, Badger. I mean, you've seemed very confident in your particular answer here, but I'm just going to put something out there for the mods to potentially put up as a poll. What are we going to get more of, lobbies or safety cars? That's the question I put out there for everybody. Badger, you're very confident in your answer on that one.
Yeah, it's going to be safety cars. Imola is the kind of circuit with its very varied corners and the nature of those corners and very tricky corners as well. That it's very easy to catch drivers out, and as such, I reckon we're going to have quite a few safety cars. That being said, it seems like at the very least we're going to start with no rain. And I would assume we're also going to end with no rain on the circuit. So at least that's how it was in the previous three lobbies. There was no rain expected for the race. Whether that remains this way for the fourth race, we will find out. But I think there's not going to be any rain interfering in this race. But the drivers will do the interfering with each other, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So we'll wait and see then. Obviously down towards Tamburello, it's one of the most difficult corners on the first lap in Formula 1. You're going down to such low speeds after such a long run down towards that first corner. And then, of course, with it being a chicane, you have all the cars going left then right. And so everybody is jostling for position. They're trying to hang it around the outside in one, the inside of another, or vice versa. And so that's then where you start to see just a little bit of conflict every now and then. So drivers set off and we get ready to go racing. You can see there the mixture of compounds that we've got there on the side of the screen. We've got Gillen on the mediums, so too Bushy Ants and Flexi. Safso interesting on the hard, so we'll get your opinion on that in a moment, Badger. Then Ben Daly on the softs, same too with Matty. Then Mr. Dale on mediums, Rasenchai mediums, Infratix soft, GB68 hards, Punju, Gullis and Liam all on the mediums, then hards for Jorrit van Geffen. Then Tom on the softs, Dirk Chocolate on the hards, softs for who is that? That's P17, who is that? That's
B-Roy.
B-Roy, that's the one. It just says TTV. It's not particularly helpful with that on there. But then we've got Hoodie Pete, and then we've got Carbon Shadow, and then El Taco Man, who has now joined us in this session, and is down in it. Oh dear! And there's contact on the first lap between the Ferrari and the McLaren of Alex Gillen and Ben Daly.
Yeah, who would have thought that Alex Gillen and Ben Daly come together on the formation lap? Oh, just about everyone.
Dear.
That's the least surprising thing to have happened on a formation lap in a while. So I think they're just messing with each other. They were messing a little bit too much with each other, and that's how we end up in this situation. But that is the way it is. And by the way, I can actually disclose, if we get enough safety cars, things are going to get very interesting towards the end. And I mean very interesting. But you got to stay tuned for that. We are hoping for some 360s. And you wanted to ask me about the hard tires. I actually think it's the smart choice, because you're getting a tire out of the way that you just don't want to use. And it's decently quick over time. Right, you're not going to lose that many positions, and you leave yourself the options later on to switch to medium compounds, and then once the safety car comes, it's just better. It's just better. Go long on the hards. If there's a safety car, then you can always swap. And I like that strategy personally.
Absolutely. And well, we've got 1, 2, 3. Well, we've got no red lights, in fact. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. Lights out, and it's go, go, go after a very short hold. Away we go, and you can see it's a fantastic start off the line for Bushy Ants down towards turn number 1. We're getting horrible camera, and now we can see what's going on. And down towards the first corner they go then. Bushy Ants up into the lead of this one, and now being threatened behind is Alex Gillen by the Ferrari and the Haas of Safso and Flexi. Flexi dropping down the order behind Safso. After Safso starts on the hard tyres, you'd imagine that it would be the other way around. But no, instead, Safso able to get themselves up now into P3, just in behind Alex Gillen. Gillen having a terrible start here. here. Mostly those cold tyres, I'd imagine, after the contact there. And then just behind, look at this, then there's this fight going on between Sasso and Flexi. Through Tosa they go, and unlike Montoya and Schumacher, they don't make contact with one another as they go through, and swinging around goes Flexi, but so too goes Mr. Dale. Mr. Dale up the inside in Piratella, then running wide onto the runoff area on the outside there, and now as we see the cars continue to just wind their way through, we've still got ourselves on this first lap. Then we'll be seeing the full name of the drivers, and Liam's already out. Liam, after just having the most virtual start to the race, we've got virtual safety car, and well then, that has been perhaps a bit of a predictable start to this race. But hey, it's not a full safety car.
Yet.
Yet.
Yeah, we still got one car stranded there, so it might very well turn into a full safety car. But so far, no upgrade planned. Question is, who is going to pit? Because I'm pretty sure a couple of drivers got damage from that situation there with Liam, who is now out of the race. The car has been removed from the circuit already, so we're not getting the upgrade, but we do get Tom, who was involved in this, coming into the pits, and Punju as well, as we go back racing again, and we lose Razin immediately.
Oh dear, what is going on with these drivers?
In the middle of the circuit.
Oh dear, dear.
Oh my goodness.
And that then means that those drivers following through, then you've got Punju and Tom both in the pits. Liam has now left the session as well. Tom moves past the Williams that is stricken in the garage. Will we end up seeing Rasinchai on the circuit? I imagine not, because of how much the time is in the pit lane. No, he's gone. So there we go then. We jump on board now with Flexi, as they are currently hunting down after Alex Gillen at this stage. 3/10 behind the Ferrari, who's just been able to creep their way back up inside of DRS range of Bushy Ants. Although, that being said, they now fall back outside of it, according to our timing tower here. And of course, on this lap, no DRS available just yet, but it will be available on the next lap. However, we won't likely see any good use of it until the lap after, because of the nature of this circuit. We've got just the one DRS zone down the start-finish straight. And this big back-end slide, massive slide there for Flexi, and that then drops him down a position. That is now Mr. Dale up onto the podium, and now then Bushy Ant sets the fastest lap. Then Alex Gillen, then Mr. Dale is going to come thick and fast here, I suspect, as we try
Matty
and
pits.
This. And Matty into the pit lane. Then do they anticipate there's going to be some change in the order here, maybe a safety car, or is it that they just have no front wing? Well, let's see on board with them into the pit. No front wing. No front wing on that Alpha Tauri, and so as they take it off, well, suddenly the touch of the mechanic's hands, the front wing reappears. They should have left it on, but there we go. So that's that all done then. They're all serviced. Meanwhile, back out to the circuit, we go and have a look then at this fight up at the top end of the field here. And I think what's really interesting to me here, Badger, is that we've got these four cars up at the top end of the field, of course, on the medium tyres. We know it's a good race tyre around here, but then we've got Sasso, Ben Daly, GB68 and Infratic all on a combination of hards and softs. You can add Jorik van Heffen into that group as well down in P9, and that's then just a mishmash of strategies then that may have been relying on something else happening, as in the background we can see there Ben Daly gets past their teammate into the Variante Alta. A great bit of coordinated teamwork there between the McLarens, because, of course, on those soft tyres, he needs to make as much progress as he possibly can in this early part of the race if no safety car is going to come.
Yeah, speaking of potential safety car, Punju is off in Tamburello. He is rejoining the circuit now, so it seems like no damage to the car, but another yellow flag that is being waved. And yeah, wonderful teamwork there between the McLarens, Tim Marduk and Safso. We have another yellow flag that is in the final corner, and that is for B-Roy. And is he the only one? It looks like it. Is he causing a safety car here? No, he is not. We do have two yellow flags, though. B-Roy into the pits now with damage. A lot going on here in the first couple of laps, and Alex Gillen is all over Bushy. We already have Punju now getting lapped, getting out of the way of cars here. Let's hope he doesn't cause any drama. He's staying on the grass here to get a very, very undeserved 10-second time penalty for violating track limits by staying off the circuit and letting cars through. That is just unfair. But I want to say about the situation with Razin, who was stranded in turn 2. He was right on the apex of that corner, and you don't look at the apex of turn 2 until you're through turn 1. So I'm going to question the FIA's decision here not to call a safety car, I think that was a textbook safety car right there, and it just hasn't happened. Very, very confusing. But we go on. Lap 5 has just started, and Bushy Ant's under a bit of pressure from Alex Gillen.
He certainly is. Yeah, you can see that last lap, Gillen 3.5 tenths quicker than what Bushy Ants was able to go ahead and put down as they go through into the Tamburello corner then. There is no movement just yet. There's been a time penalty handed out already from Mr. Dale just behind this group here. They also have the fastest lap, but if they're able to unleash that pace without going over the track limits, that'd be even better for their potential chances later on here. So Gillen then going for later apexes, it looks like here, trying to get that good drive out of the corner and get themselves into a position where they can really start to compete and start to try and go for the overtakes on Bushy Ants ahead. In terms of that, we can see there their current gap just on screen at the bottom there for you. It's 6 tenths as they go down in towards Acqua Mineralia. Back up the hill they go towards the Variante Alta, and it looks as though through that set of corners there, Gillen has been able to get onto the throttle better, has kept the rear end under control. It's a difficult thing to do through that part of the circuit there. And now, as they make their exit out of here, this is about as close as he's been so far. He'll have DRS, of course, if he manages to stay within this sort of a gap now. And as they go through Ravazza 1, Ravazza 2, you would imagine that we're going to see a potential move for the lead here from Alex Gillen. Through the final turn they come then. And down towards the DRS straight they go. Through the start-finish straight, DRS opens up now on the back of the Ferrari. And will there be an attempt at an overtake this time? As we watch in the background, the two McLarens just coming their way through. And as they start to come down in towards turn number 1, no, once again, Bushy Ants is able to keep it ahead of Alex Gillen for the time being. Now, do you reckon, Badger, that this is indicative of the driver ahead using ERS as much as they possibly can to stay ahead? Or is this down to a difference of setups? What can you tell from all of this?
Well, I can tell you right now that looking at Bushy Ants' battery charge, it's not down to the car in front using more battery to stay ahead. It's down to Alex Gillen not wanting to overtake currently. He is very happy being in P2 right now. He doesn't feel like he's that much quicker than Bushy Ants. He knows, I would say, that they are both pretty equal in terms of pace. So he's quite happy where he is. He wants to see the race be played out. And so he doesn't really launch an attack. He is saving his battery right now. Bushy has to use a little bit of his. But because you save over the course of a lap, if you don't use any, he only uses what he has spare to make sure he stays at a very solid level. And that solid level is right around 80 to 85% right now. So he uses a bit to get away at the start of the straight. Gillen uses nothing to save up a little bit, and they will meet probably within the next 3 or 4 laps. They will meet at around 80% battery charge or more. And unless Alex Gillen spins it, which was very close there. Oh, and that now makes him requiring some battery. He has to use what he just saved up. And that is the pain. Sometimes if you make that one mistake, yeah, sure, you just saved some battery, but you have to use it now to get back to the next car, to get back within DRS. Surprise, Gillen isn't using any out of Tosa. That's usually a prime opportunity to use some battery to get closer because you're coming from such a slow speed. And that's when ERS is the most powerful, but he decides not to do it. Let's see, where is he using some? Maybe out of Variante Alta, but he is somewhat close enough. 8 tenths. Is Bushy going to use some to try and pull a gap? That's personally what I would have done if I was Bushy. Just, mess him up big time. As we have a yellow flag, I think, for Punju, who has also just left the session. And Gillen is within DRS. We're talking 8 tenths of a second.
So there we go then, through Ravazza 2 they go. Gillen then, with our live speed on the right-hand side of your picture right now then, so as they get to the DRS line and it opens up, you can see there that the numbers turn to green. Over 180 miles an hour down the start-finish straight, 190 now in front of all the Tifosi. Will the Ferrari be able to get that bit closer? It's getting a bit closer, but not close enough. And just in behind them, you can see then, suddenly round the outside, line-breaking manoeuvre from Flexi, and they managed to send it all the way around the outside of Mr. Dale. What a great move from them there. Will there be any response in kind from the Aston Martin as they head down in towards Tosa? It's one where you can throw it up the inside, and he doesn't need to. Massive oversteering moment there for Flexi as they get onto the power and just end up losing the back end, and that now makes it so they are no longer fighting with the car in front at all, the Aston Martin of Mr. Dale, but instead now having to defend from a soft tyre shod Ben Daly behind.
Yeah, the problem for Ben Daly, however, is that he is already on 20+% worn tires, whereas those mediums ahead of him, they're looking a lot better. We're talking about 15% wear on those medium tires, so they're still in prime condition, basically. The soft tires, on the other hand, they're starting to feel a little bit. They are not looking the best anymore, and we have more yellow flags for Punju. If you've seen, most of the yellow flags so far this race have come from Punju. Apologies for calling him out like that. I don't mean to, but a couple have been from Carbon Shadow, who has spun in Aqua Minerali earlier, and Punju's going around again. I think his tires are just overheating. No, they're not. They're not overheating, so I think it might be a setup issue. A little bit too much oversteer on the car, on the balance of the wings, maybe. Yeah, Punju definitely struggling big time. Gillen has come closer again to Bushy Ants without using too much battery, and that is what he was looking for. So gap now about 0.6 of a second, easily within DRS. Helmut Martin not able to get past Flexi just yet.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all close then at the moment between these drivers, and none closer than Ben Daly to Flexi at this point in time. The Haas driver then clearly seems to have a great deal of pace underneath them and in that car as well, but just maybe the pressure of running within the field, of being that close to other cars, as we see them blue flags being waved for Punju to get on out of the way there, and they compromise the line of the McLaren there into Variante Alta, and that then means then that Ben Daly has lost all that time they'd gathered up in relation to the back of the car in front. And now, will they even have DRS? I don't think they will. That looks far too large a gap. And so as a result, now they're going to have all that hard work to do all over again. But as you say, with these wearing out tires, these softs do not last long as a race tire around this circuit. And whilst we've got another 60 laps, another 53 laps rather to go, Punju is now retired from the session.
Safety car!
And safety car is out. So did Punju actually end up having a big mistake then, possibly? Let's go on board with Hayden Gullis, for example. No, they're not even far enough back. So let's see.
El Taco Man. Yeah, I think Punju crashed into the pit wall.
Yep, looks like it. Yep, there he is on the left-hand side there, front right corner gone. So maybe just
through.
Oh dear. Bushy.
That is a rookie mistake from one of the most experienced drivers on the Creator Series grid. I cannot believe that. Bushy Ants with a drive-through penalty that he cannot serve right now. Remember, you can't serve a drive-through penalty under safety car. Now, here comes the big question. What are the hard runners going to do? Will they stay out? I would assume so. What are the medium runners going to do? Will they stay out? Personally, I would assume so. What are the soft runners going to do? I think they should come in, which is really only Tiamat Marduk at this point. All the other soft runners have already come in. El Taco Man was on mediums, has come in for hards, interestingly. But let's see, the top 9 have stayed out during the safety car because they were past the pit lane the first time. Now they can make the decision. Will they come in? Will they stay out? Bushy, I hope he's not thinking about serving his penalty, because that's not going to happen. Bushy stays out. Gillen stays out. Dale stays out. Flexi stays out. What is Tiamat Marduk doing? Why is he staying out? He's on softs. Safso's coming in. Van Heffen staying out, GB staying out, and Hayden Gullis staying out. So, out of the top 9, only Safso. Gullis would have had a free pit stop.
Well, the question I pose to you then, Badger, is that in the case of Ben Daly, of course, those other drivers we've been talking about going into the pits then for a new set of mediums, they've come off of hard tyres. One driver that we're looking at in particular is Dirk Chocolate right now on the screen, and we're seeing his camera as well with our wonderful picture-in-picture. And just a reminder for everybody, in the bottom left there, that is the QR code if you want to go ahead and find out more about donating to the charity work that is going on and the relief efforts and relief funds down in the Emilia-Romagna region, of course, where in the real world this is currently not looking quite as sunny and as pleasant as what we see in front of us here. But for what we're seeing with Dirk, then, they've gone from hards onto mediums. Now, do you think then, for the likes of Ben Daly, for example, on those softs, are they using this safety car to try and drag out these softs as long as they possibly can? And then the question for you is, when does the hard tyre become a valid one-stop strategy?
So for the soft runners, honestly, I can't tell you what Ben Daly is thinking here, because he's the only one on soft tires currently on the circuit. I don't know why. I really don't know why. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And he's probably going to end up somehow getting into the top 5 by the end of the race. But there will be times where he'll be down below the top 10 once he actually has to pit to get rid of those soft tires. Because if there's not another safety car soon after, he'll be struggling. This was his prime opportunity. He would have been P9 after P8 actually after pitting.
Oh, in the pits comes Ben Daly.
Yeah, now it's going to be P10.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, why he did that. The double stack would have been better. I know that Tematic and Safsa are talking in the voice chat to each other. They are very, very team-oriented. In fact, it's going to be more than P10. It's going to be about P12 for Tematic here. And, yeah, that's a horrendous strategy. If they double stack, they would have been P8 and P9 right now, with Tematic and P8, Safsa P9. Instead, they didn't double stack. Safsa is P8. For him, nothing changed. He got priority. Great. But Tematic's down to P12.
Just sorry to interrupt you there, Badger, but whilst we have been on the mic for a little while, the people, they have spoken. They want to see Gareth, and I wanted to see Gareth as well. So, Gareth, we're going to throw over to you then. What can you tell us?
Maybe the only time that I've wanted by popular demand, but it's been a mad few opening laps. Let's start off with Tom doing bowling down at Imola. He just goes for an absolutely wild move up the inside of GB68, and this is the incident that led to the demise of Liam. You can see there's all sorts of clattering after the bell. Let's jump over to this tab instead and watch Liam get absolutely... He had nowhere to go, really, as we come around Puertella at the top of the hill. He comes down into Imola, and Liam, unfortunate in qualifying, and there's just a cacophony of cars in front, and that is the end of Baby Yoda and Liam's day in the Creator Series today. We've had all sorts of clips, so cut me off when you're ready for me to shut up. But this is something that Emphatic was able to capitalise on, because he threw it into the Variante Alta on Matty D. The safety car comes out. You can see virtual safety car deployed. He gets by. The game just allows that one. Absolutely crazy, really, from Fabio, and he's very happy about that one. Indeed, more clips, of course. Ratin Shai, one of the casualties in this race, and we can jump over to that instant here, alongside Benjamin Daly, getting a good run down into Tamburello, but there's contact between the two. No, there isn't. It's a little bit... Oh, there is contact. It's at the back. I've got people through so many clips, and he gets took out by actually the secondary damage with a Red Bull. Didn't quite see who that was. B-Roy is also a car who's had moments out there, and we can see him have a little bit of a spin. Spins out, and Dirk happily says, another one bites the dust. He's not bothered about that one. He's happily taking up positions there. So B-Roy, mistake out of Avatsa, and just a few more clips to go through. And I'm kind of forgetting what happened. This is a little bit of a moment from Alex Gillen. We'll skip over this one actually, because it's not that interesting. Hero to zero moment though from Flexi. We saw this on stream, and of course he did an amazing overtake, but then just got it all wrong on the exit of Villeneuve, and bam, onto the grass, lucky to avoid the wall there and fight another day. Just a position loss there, but maybe a little bit of pride too. And finally, that Punju instant that actually caused the safety car. Someone said, please give me a safety car. He said, no way, I'm not going to do that. I've got pride. And then he just goes back onto the grid and crashes into the pit wall. So, just about catch my breath there. It's been a crazy few opening laps, and thanks for everyone for getting the clips in the channel. Keep them coming throughout the day.
Absolutely, and it's almost as though you've timed all of that there for us, because as we watch now then, we get ready to go racing once again. Let's switch back over to the action as Bushy Ants will lead the grid away and get us restarted on this one. That being said, they haven't gone just yet. Everybody is getting ready to go. People are steaming around that final corner, expecting the grid to be going at high speed, but they're not, and now he goes. So, down towards turn number one they will go then, and the Mercedes leads the field down in towards turn number one. Just behind them is Alex Gillen, but Gillen might be a bit more threatened by these two cars behind, but they're going to have a good scrap with one another. Not only has Mr. Dale been able to get back by Flexi, but behind, you can then see that Jory Van Heppen has gotten by Dale's teammate, GB68, so they're down the order here. Hayden Gus had a great restart as well. 7th place for them. Safso still in P8, managing to maintain that position so far in the McLaren. Will they be able to get one up the inside of Gullis? No, not this time? No, not today. But a bit further back, their teammate Ben Daly has already been able to make up 3 positions now, up in towards P10 at this point in time. And so now then, they have themselves a set of medium tyres that are younger than everybody else's, and they can go racing toe-to-toe, wheel-to-wheel with absolutely everybody. Meanwhile, a bit further up the way, let's take a look at this run up towards the Variante Alta, because it might be that Mr. Daly is able to threaten. No, not this time, as they then tuck in behind Alex Gillen instead. The gap had been just a 1/10 of a second heading back up the hill after Acqua Minerale, and so now then, as they make their way down towards the Ravazzas, things are very close indeed between them. So, through the last couple of corners then we go, and we go for another tour here in Imola.
Yeah, and Gullis and Infratic are battling, and Tiamat Marduk is stuck right behind that battle. Infratic stays ahead of Gullis for now, but yeah, they are going at it really, really strongly here, and now it seems like they have sorted themselves out finally, but a lot of battling was going on there in the middle sector in particular, and into Variante Alta even. But they have sorted each other out, and now Safso got through and got past GB68 as well since then, whereas Tiamat Marduk is now stuck, but is going for the move here out of Tosa on Hayden Gullis, and that clears him before Piratella. That is an incredible overtake. That straight, normally not long enough to make an overtake happen, but bad exit from Gullis, good exit from Daly, and that is a position swap between the two. And Gullis almost losing the car there in Acqua Minerale, and now Tiamat Marduk trying to hunt down Infratic as well, making up for that horrendous strategy call earlier. Not double stacking was the worst choice possible. Now Tiamat Marduk trying to fight back. Don't forget, Bushy Ants has to pit soon for that drive-through penalty.
I'll tell you what though, whilst they have to pit soon, there they go, into the pits, and that means that a new race leader emerges. The Tifosi go wild as Alex Gillen, in red today, has now taken the lead of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, a lead that they have not held since the very first moment this race got underway. And now then, as we get underway for lap 16 of 63 here, we can see then that they are now trying to build up that gap to Mr. Dale behind, as DRS is now available, of course, after 3 laps of running, or now on to the 3rd lap of running, I should say, after a safety car. And so away we go then. And I echo the sentiments very much in the chat at the moment. And a big shout out to Gareth. We love him very dearly for managing the clip book for us this week. And meanwhile, a bit further down the order, we can see then that it's not just one McLaren, but both that are on a massive charge up the field, as Safso from P8 at the restart has now been able to halve that deficit up towards the front, now being in P4 in this race. This is incredible. A great effort from them.
Yeah, certainly the new medium tyres, as Infratic goes for the overtake into Variante Alta. Again, normally not an overtaking spot, but in the Creator Series, pretty much anything goes, and he's shown that it is certainly possible, as Hoodie Pete is struggling out of Variante Alta, has lost a couple places there, is also looking to be overtaken here by Carbon Shadow as well, who goes past. Gillen goes purple, fastest lap of the race, with an 18.6 right now. He's trying to ditch Dale out of the DRS. Hasn't happened just yet. Safso trying to stay with that group as well. And here comes Tiamat Marduk on GB68. Maybe Infratic as well. GB trying to hold it around the outside. It's not quite going to work. That tyre grip difference is too big to overcome. And Tiamat Marduk is up to P7. And he's going to try to follow Infratic towards that top 5 group now.
Absolutely, though that being said, with Infratic, you can see there just before they went onto the brakes for Tosa, they had the flashing red light at the back of their car. That indicates, of course, they've got less than 10% ERS remaining. And so it's one of these things that they will need to try their absolute best to manage that, because, of course, as you can see on the steering wheel of Ben Daly at the moment, they have got significantly more ERS available in their car. And so if they get onto the back of the Red Bull anytime soon, they should be able to easily move their way past, if they, of course, want to. Because we have seen some tactical playing by the drivers at this early stage of the race, with some staying in behind for a little while and this, that and the other. Now, as it is then, Ben continues on their march up the field, but someone else who's going to try and continue their march up the field is Flexi. Now, Flexi, it looks like, is not going to have exclusive use of DRS here in the top 3. It looks like that the Aston Martin, no, the Aston Martin head does not have DRS, so they just miss out on getting DRS on Alex Gillen, as Gillen sets another fastest lap of the race, has been able to extend that gap a huge amount. But even with DRS and with the car in front flashing with that less than 10% energy available, the Haas is still not able to really close in at the rate that they would like to onto that car in front. Just behind is Sasso, of course, lurking in the wings, ready to just end up getting something happening there on those two cars in front. Of course, in a much, much better position as far as tyres are concerned, and that has been evidenced by their climb up the field so far. And then, meanwhile, a little bit further down the order, we can then see coming out of Tosa this battle that's going on behind Jorrit van Heffen, then Infratic, then Ben Daly. A group of them all nice and close together within a second each car. And so now then, GB68 is then a little bit too far off of the back of this group. 1.8 seconds back as Carbon Shadow and Dirk Chocolate are fighting one another at this point. Dirk Chocolate manages to get back up the inside on the exit of the Piratella. What a great move there from Dirk. Great driving, and that's my contractually obligated great driving from Dirk said, so I don't need to say it again. So there we are then. The Red Bull powers on down towards the next straight then, towards the next corner I should say, into the hairpin, the chicane they go rather, and they end up going through now onto that third sector. They have of course that Alfa Romeo still lingering in their mirrors here, but will they be close enough to be able to make anything happen down that start-finish straight? That is the question. As just up towards the front of the field, we've seen the move happen off-screen here. It has been the move made by Flexi, getting themselves past that Aston Martin, perhaps predictably so, given that we've seen the Aston struggling a bit more with their ERS management relative to the Haas. And now then, as they go through the next few corners, then through Villeneuve down towards Tosa, it looks as though the Haas is looking to drop that Aston Martin in the not-too-distant future, and that will then open the door, of course, for the McLaren of Safso to try and make something happen for themselves.
Yeah, meanwhile, Mr. Dale has now accrued 9 seconds of penalties. There's only one other car on the circuit, on the track right now, still in the race, that has also penalties, and that is B-Roy in P13 with 6 seconds right now. So everyone else has been well behaved, although some drivers have already 2 warnings to their name as well. So the third warning will give them a 3-second time penalty, but that just goes to show how badly behaved Mr. Dale has been, because he's already got 10 warnings to his name just for track limits.
Certainly does, and one driver who does not have any penalties at all, of course, is Infratic, chasing on after Jorrit van Heffen at this point. Van Heffen on those hard tyres that have been run since the start of this race. Infratic, correct me if I'm wrong, tyre graphic here. Yes, they are young tyres on that car right now, and DRS opens up, but it's not going to be too easy for them. They go up the inside, and Bendelli goes round the outside, trying to make it 3 wide. Down towards turn number 1 they go. Infratic manages to make the move happen, but Ben Daly does not. The McLaren driver has to stick in behind for the time being defended well there by the Red Bull, as the McLaren wanted to follow them through, use their slipstream, but they ended up getting boxed out and just unable to make the move when they had the momentum, having to lift out of the throttle and then sit in behind the Alfa Romeo Van Heffen instead. And so that then has been a great bit of racing, intentional or otherwise, from Infratic as they ascend up into P5 in this one. They've shown great flashes of performance and speed all across this session so far this evening, but I would say this is looking like their best chance for a podium in a little while here. Meanwhile though, thoughts on Ben Daly and how they managed to handle that situation down towards turn number 1, Badger?
You were mentioning earlier, Daniel, shades of Russell and Bottas. That's what that was, more than the previous incident where you mentioned it. I am stunned that Tim Bardick did not lose the car there. He was on the grass with 2 tyres and about 75% of the car. Really, where the right side of the left tyres, the inside tyre.
It's not all over yet. Look at this! Yeah. As Infratic then loses the position to Van Heffen once again! Up the inside in turn number 1, and now round the outside goes Benjamin Daly. Great bit of racing there from these drivers. 3 of them all fighting together, and Infratic just burning up all of their ERS, unable to defend at all down that start-finish straight, and a total sitting duck for the Alfa Romeo and the McLaren. Back to you, Badger.
Yeah, I am still stunned at how Tim Bardick was able to not spin there. Again, he had 75% of his car on the grass, both right side tires way on the grass, and even the left side, the inside tire walls of the left tires were basically touching the grass as well. So incredible that he was able to still keep the car pointing the right way. And yeah, Tim Bardick is on an absolute mission. He is a man possessed right now.
Absolutely, yeah, great bit of driving that we're seeing from Ben Daly at the moment. And as they start to head their way back down towards Ravazza 1 and Ravazza 2 then, they should get DRS off of Van Heffen. They'll be a little bit far back and may not be able to quite make use of it to overtake, especially given that we have seen on the McLaren as well as the Red Bull, there's been a flashing red light here. And so as they start to go down that start-finish straight, then let's see just how much they're able to gain here relative to the car in front. And not only that, but then of course, how much does Infratic gain? That's the real question, and as it is, well, the answer for both drivers really is nothing at all.
Yeah, not really much going on. Meanwhile, Mr. Dale out of P3 now into the pits, going for a set of hard tires. He can go to the end with those, but why would you pit under green flags? And look at where he reemerges. That is P16, and that is about 3 seconds behind traffic. Yes, that traffic is Bushians, but one of the best drivers we have here on the grid. But look where Bushians is. He's behind Carbon Shadow. He's behind Hoodie Pete. Drivers that have pitted under safety car that didn't have to serve a drive-through penalty. And Bushians is still on all tires as well. So for Mr. Dale, this is not a great situation to be in. Especially with how long the medium tires do last, which they would have absolutely lasted another 10-15 laps quite easily. Lifespan of, or 10 laps, let's say 15 would have stretched it, but medium tires last 36 laps around here, with softs 19 and hard tires 48 laps. So Mr. Dale doing a very good green flag pit strategy, but he doesn't take safety cars into account, and that's what will probably come back to bite him.
Look at this then, we get it on board and we get the reaction on screen as well from Tom as he manages to get his Alpine back up into the points, into the top 10 ahead of El Taco Man, and so they then make their way on past. Great move there, just easy move on with DRS down the straight and keeping it all under control in the Alpine there, of course. Meanwhile, GB68...
There's a car. Ooh, Infratic is off after turn 5 after Villeneuve. He's rejoining now in Tosa, and he almost spun himself across the circuit and into the path of Tom and El Taco Man. That was mighty close. Thank goodness nothing happened there. But yeah, Infratic down to P11 now. We're going to have to wait and see what happened. Meanwhile, Tim Amada going around the outside into Variante Alta, but gets a slide. And Van Heffen slips through. Oh, my days. That looked like such a good maneuver around the outside into Variante Alta, but then the curb struck him, spun the car around a little bit too much, and he had to catch that back up. But he's got DRS now on Van Heffen. Is he going to try to go for the move? It doesn't look like it. He's trying to save battery now. Van Heffen is actually using battery to defend here, to stay ahead. Interesting choices by both drivers. Tim Martin with the patience. Infratic now pitting. I think his thought is those tires are ruined, and I actually disagree. Once you can drive these tires safely... Oh no, he's got front wing damage. He hit the wall, that's why he's pitting. Never mind, then I agree with this call. If he's had front wing damage, he's going back out again on hard tires, and he will drop down to P16.
He will indeed, and that's very unfortunate for him. In terms of all the fights that we're seeing going on here at the moment, then, of course, we've had what's going on with these drivers here. Ben Daly, of course, having his good scrap with Jorik Van Heffen, but just behind, we've then got this fight with GB68.
Oh,
and
then... in the wall!
Who's in the wall,
Sorry, Bushy, P15, Bushy is in the wall. I don't know if he suffered any damage, if he actually touched the wall, but there was certainly some styrofoam that was being thrown around. At the very least, he hit that. It looks like the car is undamaged somehow. And he's lucky to get away with that one, but he definitely spun on the exit of Tosa, and he's dropped down to P15 now and lost himself a whopping 12 seconds worth of time just from that incident, and it's probably a bit more because I think he was actually past Carbon Shadow and Hoodie Pete, so he's probably lost more like 14, maybe even 15 seconds. If I compare that to his previous lap times, yeah, he lost himself 15 seconds in that incident. So, man, I don't know what is going on. This track seems to be somewhat cursed for some of the drivers. The amount of spins we've seen from even from experienced drivers like Bushy, Like, we've had Flexi earlier sideways. We've had Mr. Dale in the wall. Tim Marduk with a horrendous strategy call. Okay, to be fair, that's just par for the course. But it's something about this circuit that just messes up the drivers.
It certainly does. Certainly does. One driver who's a little bit more upset than they were earlier on is this one right here. Hayden Gullis really trying to maintain their position, but they have lost their position, in fact, to Matty, whilst they were trying to chase and overtake GB68. So the Mercedes driver then in a little bit more of a tricky situation here relative to those around them. Their teammate in the pits once again. After that excursion off of the circuit, of course. And now then, the rest of the field, things are relatively calm right now, except for a little bit further back, we've got El Taco Man then, just having a little bit of a scrap here with Tom once again. The two cars a little bit further up the order versus last time, of course, but now then, as they head down towards the first corner, the red light's flashing on the back of the Alpine, but it's still not enough for the Ferrari to get past. Look at that! And so there we go then. They are just struggling to make their way back past here. It looks as though they have the pace. If we take a look at the age of these tyres, they are the same age, yet, of course, being hards, it will be that as the race goes on, as this stint goes on, they will start to become the much, much quicker tyre of the two. Now, Badger, in terms of that 16 laps around this circuit, is that realistically where you start to see a crossover point between the mediums and the hards, or would you expect that to be much, much later into a stint?
I wouldn't expect it much later, but I would expect it a little bit later. I think about lap 20 or 20 laps in, that's when we should usually see the hard tire become slightly better. Maybe closer to 22, 23. It's not going to be, much later. It's not going to be around lap 30. By then, the hards are definitely the better tires. Now, Flexi is pitting off the medium tire. He's had enough. And if he's lucky, he will actually rejoin ahead of Dirk Chocolate. However, I don't think he'll be that lucky. I think he'll be just behind. It's going to be close. We could potentially go on board here with Dirk Chocolate. See where he is right now. Through the final corner he goes. Flexi still in the pit lane. And we can take a look on the right side where the pit exit is. Flexi and Dirk Chocolate. It's going to be really close. There he is.
So close. Look at him emerging there, but he's going to be slow. He's going to be on cold tyres. And that then means that Dirk Chocolate up the inside in the first corner. And that is a place gain for them there. Up into P10. And that then means they're just going to be in the way now. They're going to end up holding up Flexi, as they, of course, want to run in the clean air. They want to make sure they get themselves that bit further up the order and try and then start to chase after those ahead of them in relative pit stop time. But with Dirk now ahead, it means that that effort is scuppered until he can get past the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, I tell you what, right now, if I'm looking at pit strategy for Alex Gillen, I'm thinking this is probably the best time to call him in, because he would re-emerge ahead of Dirk Chocolate by a good 2 seconds, I think, maybe a bit more even. So he definitely has the gap to warm up the tires as well. Wouldn't be in any dirty air. And from there, he can just drive down any kind of gap to El Taco Man, Tom, Hayden Gullis, Matty D13, GB68. And at that point, some of them might just pit as well. Because remember, Hayden Gullis is on 27 lap old mediums as well. So he's going to have to pit soon. So if I was Hayden Gullis right now, I'd be thinking about a pit stop.
I tell you what, though, I mean, we're watching these drivers going round then, and you're mentioning the 27-lap-old mediums as something to maybe be a bit more cautious of and be wary of the performance there, need to go into the pits relatively soon. What do you make of Alex Gillen just setting the new fastest lap of the race on 27-lap-old medium tyres?
He did set that lap on 16-lap-old medium tyres.
Was it?
He is actually, last lap he was a second slower.
It's just popped up on my screen. Never mind. I'm talking a load of nonsense then, as it turns out.
No, the game confused you. It's not your fault. Yeah, lap 16, he set the fastest lap with an 18.6. Currently, his last lap was a 19.7, so a second slower. And if we compare that to Tim Marduk, last lap for him was an 18.7. So those 11 laps of difference between those mediums from Gillen and those mediums from Tim Marduk, that's a second. That is 1 second. At least last lap it was. I think Tim Marduk may have had DRS off of Van Heffen, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this lap it's a 10th and a half, so it's very different here. But no, if I was Alex Gillen, I'd be thinking about going for mediums again, because, as I mentioned earlier in this race, there is a little bit of weather looming. And when I say a little bit of weather, I mean a lot of weather looming. Still far out, but it will get here in time. We've had enough safety cars and virtual safety cars early on that we will definitely see some weather.
Well, there we go then. We can see the weather on the right-hand side of the picture there. Light cloud for the next 15 minutes is what it's saying, with a 3 and 4 and 5% chance. So maybe it won't be light cloud in the next 5 minutes. Who knows?
No, it will.
It will. Okay. Well,
it's a bit further out than that. It's a bit further out than that.
Well, that's what I was about to say. We've then got our next intervals at 30 and 60 minutes. So it could well be hiding in amongst one of those intervals. Is this?
It should be showing at 60 minutes.
Oh, is it?
It should be.
It just says light cloud on our screens here.
What? That's wrong then.
Oh dear.
But
Wow.
check again in about 3 minutes, and then look at the 30-minute interval.
Excellent. Well, there we go then. That's what we will do. So at 8:30, you heard it here, first, folks, rather. Words, I'll try and get them out. But there we go. So then, it is currently Alex Gillen in the lead of this race, then Safso, then Timet Marduk, then Jorrit van Heffen, then Matty, then GB68, who we are watching at the moment, chasing after the AlphaTauri after being overtaken by them. And then it's Hayden Gullis, Tom, El Taco Man. Then we have the TTVs. We have Flexi. Then we have Mr. Dale. Then Dirk Chocolate, then Hoodie Pete, then Carbon Shadow, Infratic, then we have B... Tell you what, let's just go to full names. B. Roy, there we go. And then Bushy Ants at the back of the field. Unusual place for us to see Bushy Ants, given that they have won a number of races so far this season. Talk us through then where this race has really fallen apart for them here.
It's the drafter penalty that he got during the safety car period that put him down the back of the field. He was in 17th at that point, and from there, the pit stop 4 laps ago also put him down, being stuck in traffic. All of that worked together. Once you are that far down, any mistake will get you, and he's unfortunately made one, and that's cost him some more. But it's not over yet. He is on the hard tire. He can go a good 30 minutes, no problem, on this side. Probably a lot more than that, to be fair. But, yeah, everyone else will have to pit at some point, or almost everyone else will have to pit. Certainly, Pete, 12, 13, and 14, Dark Chocolate, Hoodie, Pete, and Carbon Shadow.
Sorry to suddenly make a noise in the middle of your explanation there. It looked as though Taco Man was suddenly going to send one up the inside of Tom into the first corner. As it is, though, backed out at the last second to make sure that the two didn't end up coming together. So there we are then. Back to you, Badger.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. That's fine. I tell you what, I'll keep on going to allow you to sneeze. But yeah, as it is then, Taco Man, those hard ties clearly giving them a bit more grip. They have another look up the inside, this time in Piratella versus Tom in front. And Tom then is going to be looking in the mirrors. I tell you what, we can find out if he's looking in his mirrors, of course, because we can take a look from their perspective. Let's just jump on board with Tom now. I say all that, let's wait until it actually transitions over. There we go, now we can see that. And on board with the Alpine then, let's see if there's any reaction at all to that Ferrari looming large in their mirrors. And I tell you what, if this battle ends up coming to a conclusion relatively soon, then we might end up having a little check-in with our friend Gareth, of course, down with the clip book, because he has some things to show us, but we've not had any of those safety cars. In the pits go Matty and Hayden Gullis, so they will now start to fall their way down the order. And look at this then, total poker face for Tom right now as he goes down towards turn number 1, and this time Taco Man doesn't look quite as much of a threat. So I tell you what then, let's do exactly that. Let's go over to Gareth rather. Gareth, I almost got your name wrong, but not quite. Let's talk through some of those clips you got for us there.
Yeah, so a couple of crashes coming up here. So Emphatic, he was fighting brilliantly with Jorrit and him at Marduk, brilliantly commentated by you two as well. And here is what led Emphatic out of that position into his natural habitat, clipping the wall there as he exits the Villeneuve chicane. We've seen an incident early there with Flexi, and that is unfortunate. He had to pit for a new front wing, as highlighted on the stream, and that was unfortunate. We also have Bushy Ants having a bit of a mistake. Of course, we've spoken about that drive-through, very unfortunate, and he's had to recover through the this led to another front ring change as well, because coming out of Tosa, a little bit of turbulent air, and that is a spin into the wall and smacking out the Creator Series polystyrene board. So lovely job for Bushiance there. He is on yet again another recovery drive. Never rule him out though. He is super quick.
Absolutely, yeah. So then, thank you very much for that, Gareth. We now jump back to the live action, the live pictures, as we take a look at the Ferrari heading its way down towards turn number 1 then, with the Alpine just ahead. Once again, that Alpine's rear light flashes a little bit, and they then start to wind that power back on and get themselves trying to, just trying to push on forward, trying to make their way by, because of course at this point, now that the hard tyres have crossed over with the mediums and are now the quicker tyre, certainly for the age of the mediums that Tom is running, now Tacoman is just being held up, and as we saw in the race story graphic a little bit earlier on, Tacoman started 20th, is now up in 9th place. This is a great race, or 7th now, as it was. Earlier on it was 9th, now it's 7th. So this is a great bit of a performance here from them, around a circuit that they got no practice at and went straight in with no qualifying either, so didn't really get a lay of the land, a lay of the conditions, but they do of course carry a 3-second time penalty currently, which will not help them come the end of this race. There have been a couple of occasions when we've been riding on board over the course of this lap where we have seen it's looked a little bit more scrappy from them, and especially there you can see that's when the back end really steps out, and then all chances go up in a puff of tyre smoke. So there we are then. That is not the greatest of things for them, but that is ultimately just a little bit of a temporary halt in proceedings, shall we say, because they've got themselves right back within a second once again. DRS opens up on the Ferrari, and they're going to try and get their way back up to the back of this Alpine once again, but it looks as though Tom has finally started to put the hammer down and potentially go for their in-lap. What do you reckon with that one there, Badger?
It's a good question. To be fair, I feel like Tom has made the wrong call for the medium tyres when the safety car came out. I think it would have been better to go for hards, as so many drivers have done. Or actually, as never mind, as only El Tacoman has done. So I think he's gotten it exactly right. But for Tom, yeah, but what tyre is he going to go on? I mean, he has a medium set that's been used for 8 laps, which is just too much to be like really viable, but it's not enough that it's a very valuable stint that you got out of them. Softs wouldn't make it to the potential rain. By the way, if you want to check the...
I'm checking it now, and it does look as though it's just changed, but we did have a nice percentage chance, if you know what I mean, of light rain in 30 minutes' time. It's now elevating even more, now up to 71%. So, 30 minutes until rain and about 30 laps until the end of this one. Now, of course, we know that a lap is around about 1 minute and 15 seconds, so will we end under rain or will it dry up? That's the real question.
We will end under rain, and it will be torrential rain as well.
Look,
Taco tried to go for the move there around the outside of Tom, didn't quite work out. The outside is not where you want to be in turn 1. You've got to have significantly more overlap with the other car if you want to make it work around the outside. And in this case, it didn't just work because the inside car can just push you off, close the door on you if you're halfway alongside or less. I feel like it's a viable thing to just be like, yeah, my corner now, and just shut the door. So Taco wasn't quite close enough there, and look who's joined the frame. Joined the fray, rather. I can't speak English properly. Flexi is on the group now. Makes it a nice, solid trio. And he is on significantly fresher hard tyres, so he should have an easy time getting past both of them. He also has a lot more ERS than the two of them. And when I say the two of them, I mean the two of them combined. He's got 60%. They've got combined 20%. So it's a struggle for them. And Flexi should be flying. And El Tacoman doesn't even fight it. Look at that. And now Flexi sits on the battery. Still on the battery. Down to 40%. Down to 30%. He needed all of that to get just close. And doesn't even get the position, and that is painful. He just wasted about 40% battery, and now he's going for more.
Oh, up the inside, down towards Variant. There they go, up the inside, and that is Flexi up the inside there. That has also upset Tom. Could this now finally be the moment that Taco Man has been waiting for? No, Tom hugs the middle of the circuit on entry into Tosa. Good bit of defensive driving there. And Taco Man then is just under so much pressure right now to just get this move done and get past. But they're not able to do it. And this, of course, is with Flexi having made a pit stop, gone all the way behind them at one of the longest pit lane times in the entire season, and has now caught the back of them and gotten past them again. So these tyres clearly not up to the task of fighting at the front of the field right now, unlike with the other tyres. Sasso now into the pit lane, so their teammate will go on by. And so that then is Tiamat Marnock on through. Now that then gives us some indication potentially as to the McLaren strategy here, because of course Sasso came in when the safety car was first called and was able to take advantage then, and Ben came in another lap or two later. I forget which lap it was, but he managed to get himself in that little bit later, so that means that they don't have to deal with the offset of strategy there. They don't have to worry about all that's going on there. And just up ahead, look at this. Taco Man, will he finally do it? He goes to the outside, breaking on the racing line, up the inside in the second part of Tambirello, and we did catch it. Taco Man up into P6 and finally has his man. Gets by Tom, but Tom is threatening the back of him. Into Villeneuve they go, and Taco Man felt like they needed to be defensive there, but as it is, it was all founded on nothing, as Hayden Gullis, of all people, now sets our new fastest lap of the race. No disrespect to him, just didn't expect it to be him at this stage of the race, but there we go then. And so that's a new fastest lap from the Mercedes driver, currently down in P12, catching up rapidly on the back of Dirk Chocolate right now. And well, there is the question in chat then from D Chicks Fixer. The Chicks Fixer? I don't know, whatever that one is. And that is, what the hell is Alex doing? Badger, over to you.
It's a very good question indeed. The tyre lifespan for these medium tyres is indicated at 36 laps. If you notice, we are on lap 38. If you also notice, Alex Gillen hasn't pitted yet. He's on medium tyres. This is the longest stint we'll see on these tyres, guaranteed, by far. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's doing. At this point, he should probably pit, because if he does, he would be right behind Flexi. He's not going to make it to the rain, is he? Maybe he's trying to go for soft tires. He's not going to the rain. I see people saying, he's going to the rain. No, if somebody is watching right now, it's probably a good idea. Go to Alex Gillen's chat. Tell him, you're not going to make it to the rain. This is not going to happen.
No, we've flashed up the broadcast now. Oh, look at that. That's a Williams round. That is B-Roy. B-Roy. There we go. Yeah, that's the one. I see I am learning. And they are round. It's not enough to prompt a safety car, though. So we're back to green flag running. Maybe the reduced safety car is actually producing a reduced result here today. And now into the pits then comes Alex Gillen. So whereabouts do you reckon, Badger, that he's going to end up coming out relative to everybody else here?
About half a second to a second behind Flexi. So they might be a level right on pit exit, but after that, it's going to be pretty clear. And by the way, safety car is on increase. So
oh, it is. Oh,
yeah.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. I just checked to make sure. As always, it's always on increase here usually. But yeah, he's going to be right level with Flexi on pit exit, but Flexi should have the overspeed and get past it. There you can see Gillen, and there is the overspeed. I mean, can I predict it any better than that?
I mean, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's,
and 1 second in turn one.
It's almost like you're a race engineer or something. It's
bizarre. It's almost like I'm going to be in F1 esports next season.
Well, you are? Oh, well, congratulations to you. W's in chat, please, for Badger. I
can't say which team yet.
No, absolutely not. But I tell you what, it's still a good achievement regardless of who it is. So away they go then. There's the first W from Gareth there. Let's get some more of those in, please. Chat, please. Let's celebrate that. Come on, we've got one of our commentators here is going to F1 esports. I can tell you that this one isn't, but not unless my invite has been lost in the mail or something like that. But as it is then, we can see that tyre life there. So Ben Daly does now lead this race. Now there's a question in the chat. We'll briefly flash up that tyre age once again. So Ben is taking these tyres. They're about 10 laps younger than what Alex Gillen's tyres were when he eventually came into the pit. And what do you reckon as far as Ben's potential chances of getting to the rain?
Oh boy. Yeah, that's a tricky one because they can do 10 more laps, I reckon.
Let me actually check. I can see his tire wear. Oh, they can easily do 10 more laps. Yeah. So if I gotta bring up my calculator here real quick. So give me 1 second. Right. That he can actually go. Yeah, he can go 12 more laps, possibly 14, maybe even 15 if he really wants to risk it. And that would be enough. That would be enough to make it to the rain and to the crossover point. So I think Tiamat Marduk is looking in a very good position here. What I'm a bit worried about is the hard runners behind him, Van Heffen and GB68, because they are on 39 lap old hards each. So it's going to be 40 at the end of this lap. And if I look real quick at Van Heffen's tire wear, yeah, he's not going to make it. He's going to have to pit at some point. This is just not going to happen. I can do a quick calculation here, but no. He's got about 8 laps left in these tires before they hit puncture territory. And by then, the rain will not quite be there just yet. Maybe the first drops, but you gotta risk a lot. But at the same time, one safety car period right around now, or within the next 5 or 10 minutes, and it would actually work out.
There we go then. So that's how things are shaping up for the meantime then. So there is Yorit at the wheel of his Alfa Romeo, trying his absolute best to get this car up the order here and get themselves into a good bit of space. Of course, there is that doubt from you, and if you're doubting it, then I will believe it, that he will make it to that rain crossover point. So at that stage then, it's going to be a bit of a struggle for them. Now, the other issue, which is, of course, not just impacting this driver I'm about to discuss, but all of the drivers, I would imagine, after I'm sure they would have anticipated a bit more of a safety car heavy race here, this one, and that is fuel. And that is how much they are under fueled at this point in time. Ben Daly, it's been mentioned in the chat, is about -3 laps in terms of their fuel right now. Yeah. Now, of course, I don't know whether this is just me or just generally speaking, but I tend to find when I'm driving in the game that during wet conditions, you sort of more naturally save fuel. It's a lot easier a process to do in just the way that you drive the car. Now, is that something that's represented for everybody and therefore should be able to help those drivers, or are they going to need to do some fuel saving before we get to the rain?
Yeah, you're not just a wet weather fuel saving master. That is for everyone. Sorry to burst your bubble there, but yeah, no, that's a very natural effect. It's a very natural effect because obviously you have to brake earlier, right? Because you don't have that much grip in the braking zone. The brakes don't work as well in the wet, and as such, you have to brake earlier, and therefore you're on the throttle less. That in return ultimately means that you do save a bit of fuel. And Tiamat Marduk isn't actually the worst offender when it comes to the fuel right now. He is down 3 laps on fuel. He is the second worst of those I can see. The worst offender has actually just done the fastest lap. That is Mr. Dale, 17.2. Fantastic lap, but also 3.6 laps underfueled.
Oh dear.
Yeah, he's got another half lap extra and 0.6 laps extra, really, to catch up, and he's really struggling for fuel. But one safety car will do it. There is a spun Carbon Shadow on the exit of Tulsa, and people have to avoid him. Infratic has to avoid him there, but he's going again, and his tire temperatures don't look that bad, so I think he'll just be fine. But yeah. Rain will help. Also, one effect that we have to keep in mind is that you naturally save fuel around the circuit compared to the indication. The indication is slightly off. You generally save a little bit right around 1 lap over 100% race distance, or half a lap over a 50% race distance if you're a league racer. So you save a little bit naturally, but it's not enough. So the rain will help, but even the rain will not be enough for Tiamat Marduk. He's going to have to lift and coast.
There we are then. That's the full assessment and the full danger plan for him. And not only that, but up in the lead of this race, it looks like we might just get a changeover of that lead, because Ben Daly, and whilst they are babying those tyres, doing a bit of lifting and coasting, Jorrit van Heffen has no such qualms about going slow at all at this point in the race, has been able to catch up to the back of the Australian driver. And now then, as the rear wing opens up on that Alfa Romeo, the rear light flashes as well. So will they have the overspeed here? Well, it certainly looks like it. Look at this. They are catching rapidly on the back of the McLaren at this stage. To the outside they go into Tamburello, and that is the lead change then. Jorrit van Heffen gets the lead of this race, having started all the way down the order in P14, now leads this Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And the question then is for how long, of course, because that was what we were discussing earlier on, is do they end up getting themselves back up into this leading position here when the rain comes, because they may not make it to the pits at that crossover point. Those hard tyres may well die and then going into a puncture before that happens. So that's the thing to keep an eye on there in terms of that battle. In terms of Ben Daly, of course, massive amount of fuel saving going on, I would imagine, in that car right now. And then in addition to that, we can see that those who pitted earlier on are starting to make their way back up and through. But not only that, but there's been a change between Flexi and Alex Gillen. So essentially the effective race lead has gone back to Alex Gillen now, as they have been able to get by Flexi at some point, I think in the last lap or two, and have been slowly opening up the gap since. So now just over a second between the pair of them, and so it's looking pretty good here. And there we go. Can we get rain forecast now, says Dan? Yes, Dan, you can. There it is. We've got light rain. Oh, and then in 30 minutes, there's a storm. No wonder you were keeping tight-lipped about that one. So that's... Well, do you reckon then, with just under 20 laps to go, we will see that storm, or are we going to just get light rain instead?
No, we will see just the end of just the beginning of that storm. We will see towards the end of the race. It's going to be really interesting. I'm not sure it's going to be worth it for the drivers to go away from the intermediate tires, though. It's a tricky one to make the right call here, because ultimately, interestingly enough, if you are on intermediate tires in full wet conditions, the maximum amount of time you're going to lose around a lap is only about 4.5 seconds. Now contrast that to the 26 seconds that you lose here in the pit lane. Just a little bit of division, and you will find out that it takes you 6 laps to regain that. So your last possible pit lap to go from inters to wets is lap 57. That's in 12 laps time. It's not raining yet, and yeah, it will happen, but in 12 laps time, will there be enough rain for full wets to be worth it? Personally, I doubt it. So, but it's going to be interesting. At some point, the driver's going to really struggle, and everyone's going to go slowly. And some drivers might actually fancy the switch. If we get a safety car late on, lap 57, 58, 59, I wonder who's going to play that gamble, take the extra 4.5 seconds potentially, or even 5 seconds maybe, and lose the track position, because a lot can happen. 5 seconds. I've done this before, where I've engineered a driver in a race around France, and everyone was on inters, and I told him go on to wets during the safety car period. He dropped down to 10th or so. After 1 lap, he was in P1. So that's France, a circuit where it's notoriously difficult to overtake. And this is Imola, where the main straight's long, and you've got opportunities here. So it's going to be an interesting one. These last 17 laps, as Matty D has left the session. I hope he can rejoin quickly. Yeah, strap in, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to grab yourself some snacks, now's the time to do it, because you won't have any time in about 5 minutes or so.
Absolutely. So there we are then. We've got ourselves a potential a potential bit of spice to add into the latter stages of this race then, with drivers on differing strategies, maybe trying to keep the inters on until the end, some going for the wets possibly. It's all to come, of course. If we get another safety car, then I'd imagine that will then throw those strategies into even more jeopardy and make the full wets even more likely. But as it is, we've only had the one full safety car, and then of course the one virtual safety car. That is all it has been so far in this race, and with that it means that there's not been a huge amount of time to go over and speak to Gareth. But Gareth, I'm gonna just throw to you now with the caveat that we may have to jump over you at any point in order to describe what's going on in the circuit. But over to you, good sir.
That's fine, because Badger's just told everyone to get any snacks anyway, so no one's watching. But we certainly do have a few incidents to go through. B-Roy, we saw him have a bit of a spin earlier. Well, you just missed it on camera, but it was on the exit of the Variante Alta at the top of the hill. He just caught a little bit too much curb and, very unsettled the car. And there we are, spinning. He's right at the back. Maybe he can be a right lad and cause a safety car for the others. Let's see if that happens. We also have this incident between El Taco Man and Tom. We can see it just ahead. Savso's viewpoint just behind, winning out ultimately in that. And a bit of a clumsy one really for El Taco Man. But Tom was a little bit all over the place into the braking zone. I do have some sympathy for El Taco Man. And finally, I do just want to highlight this cheeky little move into the 17th corner of Avatsa 1, and Carbon Shadow just going a little bit deep, and Hayden Guller saying thank you very much, I will have that position. A good move from Hayden. He's been making his way up the field.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you very much once again for that one then. And I'm sure that we'll get the opportunity to speak to you a little bit later on. But in terms of what's going on in this race, you can see then that whilst Ben Daly has been caught and passed by Jorrit van Heffen, they have now, the pair of them, been caught by the former race leader, Alex Gillen. Now on the back of his friend slash foe, Ben Daly. And now then with the massive offset in the tyres. The other thing that we need to bear in mind here, of course, Badger, is that even though we know the rain is coming, it's one of these things that Gillen needs the rain to come, because they've gone from mediums to mediums. As a big slide there for Ben Daly, that opens the door nicely, and that means that alongside, before even the DRS becomes available, goes Gillen, and now then they're going to have the run down in towards turn number 1. Is there going to be any fight back here from the McLaren? It looks like there might be. And so as they go down towards turn number 1, then despite that difference in tyre, the pair of them still in the same positions. But it looks like a much better run through Tamburello for Gillen than for Daly. Daly gets back onto the power onto ERS to make sure they stay ahead on the entry to Villeneuve there. And as the sky darkens, then you can see this difference in grip is so pronounced. And down in towards Tosa they go. And in for the late apex goes Alex Gillen, past Benjamin Daly and up into P2 in this race. And now just one position away from reclaiming their top spot that they got in qualifying. Lost out on the start after a collision with their friend there on the formation lap. Met them with cold tyres, and then they retook that position later on. So then, as it is, they are now going to chase back up the hill out of Acqua Minerale towards the Variante Alta. And now then, as they start to go into that chicane, then I have a feeling that with the tyre life that they do have, 48-lap-old hards versus 10-lap-old mediums, this should be a walk in the park for Mr. Alex Gillen here against Jorrit van Heffen. And so down in towards Ravazza 1 they go then. DRS will be available, of course, to the Ferrari driver on the start-finish straight as a result of that close speed between the two of them. And now as they go out Ravazza number 2, Ben Daly into the pits then for a new set of tyres. And now then with DRS open, here goes Alex Gillen then. Down towards turn number 1 they go. 2 tenths separate them. They now get alongside and passed up into the race lead once again. Jorrit van Heffen demoted back down into P2 and Gillen up into P1 once more.
Yeah, Turbomata goes for soft tires right now. His mediums were only on 67%. He could have gone a couple more laps. I don't really understand why he didn't, because a couple more laps and the rain is going to come. Matty is finally back in. Apologies, I couldn't sort that out. I think someone else got him, thankfully, back into the lobby, and he can retake his car in P7 right ahead of Tiamat Marduk, actually, right now. But that was about the worst timing for Tiamat Marduk. Oh, he's trying to go for fastest lap. Well, that's an interesting choice. Yeah, so lose yourself about 10 points just to gain 1. Clever. Mr. Dale currently has the fastest lap, and he is not a threat in the championship. So I don't really understand. And Matty has left the session again. Oh my, something's going on. There is no rain yet coming down. Although are the first, yep, those are the first drops. Never mind, I was talking nonsense. Those are the first drops coming down on the camera, and oh my goodness, look at how many drops there are immediately. Yep, this is going to be a very quick crossover. Timbermodic is not going to get to the lap for the fastest lap. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen at all, is it? They've got those tyres up to temperature now, and now then, as they go down the start-finish straight, DRS is still enabled at least, so the conditions are still dry enough where that is still available, but of course, there is a good amount of time between those great conditions and then those conditions where it is switched off, wherein you will be slower over the course of the lap. So let's just see what Ben is able to do then, and let's bring up our lap timer to see how they do throughout this lap, whether they're able to set these purple sectors. Through the first sector they're going, then down towards Tosa, and it is a purple first sector. The fastest lap currently held by Mr. Dale. Then Tiamat Marduk has beaten the first sector by over 2.5 tenths of a second. Up into the second sector we go now then. They're going to have the most complicated, most tricky parts of the circuit to deal with here, including, of course, the Aqua Minerale. And as they head back down the hill then, they could now go into here, not taking too much of the mickey with the track limits there at all, keeping it well within the bounds. And now back up the hill they go then. What is the split time going to be? They're actually slower than Alex Gillen through that middle sector. And over the course of the lap, I mean, I'm wondering whether or not this will be successful or not. Down towards the end of the lap they go then, and the red light is flashing on the back of that car now. That weather is coming down fast and hard, and now through the final turn they come then. Will they go into the pits, or will they instead go for the end of the lap? They go for the end of the lap, and will it be fastest lap for Benjamin Daly? It will not. It is held by Mr. Dale, and that then means that Ben has gambled, and gambled poorly.
Yeah, very poorly, and he should have just pitted, because although the crossover hasn't happened yet, even though DRS is disabled, now it is the time to pit, but the dry tires are still better. But that's going to change within the next minute. So now is the time for everyone to pit. We should see, well, not quite double stacks, but we should see, you know, for example, McLaren with 20 seconds between the two cars. We should see both cars coming in. Gillen should be coming in. Flexi, everyone should be pitting this lap. Let's see if they do. Here is Gillen. Yep, Gillen in. Flexi, is he going to join him? Yes, he is. Safso. Yeah, it's going to be busy here. Van Heffen, GB, everyone coming in.
So there we go then.
Who's going for inters and who's going potentially for wets? Because you know that we are expecting a lot of rain.
We certainly are. We certainly are. To remind you of that, you can see then that over the next 5-10 minutes it should be light rain, but in 15 minutes there's an 89% chance it's going to be storm weather. It is going to come down properly hard in the next 15 minutes or so. And given that we have these lap times then, which are around about 1:15 in the dry, then up to maybe 1:20 in the wet, during racing conditions at least, that's then where we're going to end up seeing, well, possibly even slower. In fact, I'm sure you'll correct me on that in a second, Badger, but that's then going to be very likely we hit those wet conditions in the next 10 laps before this one is done. And then here you can see then Jorrit van Heffen gets on past the AlphaTauri that gets out of their way there. And, well then, it's game on for everybody now. The great equalizer, the rain, is now going to give us an opportunity to see who has set their car up well for these wet conditions and who is going to end up missing out as a result. Certainly Ben Daly right now down in P6 is definitely missing out. 17 seconds off the back of GB68, now on the same set of tyres and same strategy.
Yeah, and meanwhile Dirk Chocolate has spun in Rivazza 2. Was in the middle of the circuit, has pulled his car away from there. He's on medium tires still, so he's massively struggling in these conditions now. But yeah, the question is, the crossover between inters and full wets is coming in less than 10 minutes, but a bit more than 5 minutes. So at that point, will drivers risk going for the wets? Will it be early enough in the race that it's worth it or not? That is the main question here. As more and more drivers picking up penalties here. Alex Gillen, however, stays penalty-free. Only has one warning so far to his name. Absolute machine of a driver currently. And he would take back the championship lead with this performance. But yeah, it's all about the rain now, and this is definitely into weather easily now, and it's only going to intensify.
It certainly is, certainly is. And 78% of you in the chat think that we are going to see another safety car before the end of this one. And time will tell. If we do, of course, then that will throw things really in the air for gambling on those full wet tyres. I'd imagine that, Badger, you would say that if that safety car does come, then full wets are just a given. Even if it's not necessarily full wet conditions at that time that it's called, then surely it must be the tyre that you go onto.
Yeah, it depends a little bit. If it happens now, it's basically a coin flip for me. But if we're talking a safety car coming lap 57, 58, coming out lap 57, 58, at that point I would say, yeah, for sure, it's going to be time. We see, by the way, lap times going to 1:22:23 now, which is pretty much on par with what we've seen in Q1. So Q1 was a little bit faster than that, but you know, what you would expect in the race with the added fuel load. And with although the setups were the same, but yeah, it's a tricky one. If there's a safety car right now, it's a very tricky one. If there's a safety car within the next 3 laps, makes it easier. Even with 2 laps to go, you'd have to come in.
Well, there we go then. So that's the real sticking point then, headed into these last few laps. And Wireman2004 asking, Badger, can you please in all capital letters, teach Ben some basic strategy, please? Pitting for a fastest lap he didn't even get. His chat are frustrated as hell. And then you respond in kind saying, I've already tried.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've tried that many times to try and pass on my knowledge to him. He's not picking it up. Every time, usually after these streams, after these broadcasts of the creator series, usually every time when all the creators and us commentators are together in the creator voice chat, basically a bit of a debrief, every time I rip him a new one and he just doesn't learn from it. So I can only do so much. And yeah.
Have you considered that he's maybe just spending the time apologizing to his chat instead of listening to you?
could be. Although I haven't seen his chat as angry as they are today, so this is a new low for Tiamat Marduk in terms of strategy calls. I mean, not only his idea to not double stack earlier, let's not forget that, let's not let him off the hook for that, but also now him trying to go for fastest lap when there was no viable reason for that, and he just cost himself a bunch of points. I don't understand it. I really don't. Yeah, this explains Ben Daly very well. He asked his chat if he should pit. They all said no. He did it anyway.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, sometimes, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it pit for the right tyres for it. Yeah. But there we go. So, as it is then, we continue to watch this fight going on here between Jorrit van Heffen and Safso. These two drivers then really trying their absolute best at this point to get themselves into a great place at the end of this race. But, as you can see from the timing intervals, they don't need to be trying too hard necessarily, because Safso and Jorrit are both within 6 seconds, and a safety car! A safety car has been called, and Badger, surely this is now full wet pit stop immediately.
Yeah.
Does this save our Papaya Australian?
It saves him to a degree, but again, he has to make the right call, and I don't have any confidence in him actually making the right call. Is he gonna pit this lap? If he doesn't, he has one more chance. He stays out, but he can still pit next lap, because the leaders, the top 5 right now, and yeah, soon to be top 6, are already past the safety car. So he has another opportunity. Chat, don't crucify him early here. He has another opportunity. He just went past the safety car, so he could pit next lap. Matty does the smart thing. He goes for full wets. It is right now, it's a little bit of it's not much of a gamble. Let's be real here. It's not much of a gamble. Lap time on the safety car in the wets is going to be over 2 minutes. So this safety car will be out for at least 6 minutes. By then, we will have enough water on the track that the full wets are better. Matty D is in. Tom is in. El Taco Man is in. More and more drivers. And by the way, I have no idea who caused this. Nobody's
I think
out.
The penalty just flashing up on our screens might be the driver, because according to Gareth in the chat, B-Roy is the one who has now also gotten themselves a 5-second time penalty.
Gillen stays out. Gillen stays out. Flexi is in. Drive-through penalty for Mr. What is going on? Safso Van Heffen in. GB in. Everybody but Gillen. Oh, did he just throw away the championship lead?
Dear, oh dear, for Ferrari at one of their home races. Have they gone ahead and messed this all up? Now, there's accusations in the chat right now that B-Roy has deliberately caused the safety car to ruin Flexi's race.
Hold on. He has not done that. Flexi is net P1.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, is that, I mean, we will reserve judgment until such a time as maybe Gareth is able to grab a clip for us to illustrate whether or not that is true. We've got a clip, apparently, of both Dirk and B-Roy having a spin. So, Gareth, over to you. Can you bring us some analysis to put this one to bed?
Yeah, let's go straight away to that B-Roy clip, and it is coming into Tamburello chicane. That he goes a little bit offline, he's already struggling. Then on the exit, he dips a wheel too much onto the curb, spins around, and he smacks his back wing and his front wing into the wall, and that has been deemed enough to cause a safety car. So I don't think that was intentional, unless he's excellent at bad driving, and maybe he's a great driver normally, but from the course of this race, that may not be what's going on. Quickly, we'll just go over to Dirk, who had that moment on those mediums, and let's just go and move this clip along a little bit, because it's way along here. Yeah, so it's a strange place. It's around Vatsa, and it's in a straight line. He's not even really turned in when he had that moment. So that was Dirk's what caused him to drop down the field. He wasn't running into points anyway.
Gillen in.
Anyway,
sorry to interrupt. Alex Gillen in the pits now. He's going to lose about 4 places, but he's going for the wets a lap late.
Dear, oh dear, where is he going to come out then relative to everybody else? We've
GB.
already seen that that Flexi, Safso and Yorit have all gone, and you're saying behind GB is where you will end up. We've of course got Mr. Dale probably going to go on wets themselves here too, but then will Matty be able to get on pass? I don't think so, not from that timing gap there. And so Gillen then in the pits for a total of 26.7 seconds, including their stationary time.
That's a little bit incorrect. I've got on my timing screen at 29.4, but
Mr. Dale disagrees with you.
SimHub doesn't know anything.
Well, there we go. That's that.
To be fair, I do somewhat dislike SimHub because of its inaccuracies, but that's for a different day. Mr. Dale actually stayed out. Bit surprising, because if there's one guy who would probably want to pit, I'd say it's Mr. Dale, because he's got a drive-through penalty anyway. Unless he's trying to hold everyone up, but why would he? I'm not so sure. No, I think he's trying to close in, but with those inters in those conditions, it's not easy. And he's really struggling, and he's got the drive-through penalty. So yeah, I don't know what Dale is doing here currently. I'm surprised he's still in this race, to be fair. But meanwhile, Matty D, Tiamat Marduk now stuck there in P8, net P7, I would say. It does let Tiamat Marduk off the hook a little bit that he's now on wets, but ultimately he could have been in a much better track position if he just doesn't do what he did. He honestly, he could have been leading the race right now. I am not kidding when I say that. The amount of time that he lost from that extra pit stop for the fastest lap he didn't get, that 1 lap later pitting than Safso, not double stacking, which cost him 3 positions on track, all of that ultimately cost him so much in terms of track position, in terms of lap time, in terms of race time, that he really ends up, P8 right now when he could have easily been P1.
Absolutely. So here we are.
Apparently, he just overtook Matty D13.
Interesting. I wonder how that's ended up happening. Well, we'll wait and see then if Matty maybe retakes the position from Ben at some point.
Hold on. One little addendum. I finally understand why Mr. Dale's doing what he's doing. He's trying to save fuel. He's desperately trying to save fuel. He's still 1.4 laps down. For comparison, Tiamat Marduk is now in the plus. So he doesn't have to worry about fuel anymore. Dale goes wide because Tiamat Marduk just sent it on him through Piratella. My goodness. What was that?
Oh dear. I think that there was definitely a car that's just come through. One of the Alpha Tauris, I think maybe possibly Hoodie Pete, who has been unlapping themselves throughout this field. And so it could potentially be the after effects of that. And then, of course, Dale is already on inters and already in a rough spot as far as grip is concerned. And so this is looking a little bit more tricky for them. So let's see this one then. So most of the field has now caught up back behind the safety car. So let's give you the full rundown of those in this field who still remain, as we now have 3 laps to go. The safety car will come in at the end of this lap. It will always leave 2 laps worth of free racing at the end of the race. So this is the last lap behind the safety car. So we have leading the race then with 6 seconds worth of time penalties is Flexi. Then we have Safso, then Jorrit van Heffen, then GB68, Alex Gillen, Tiamat Marduk, Mr. Dale, Matty, Bushy Ant, Gullis, Tom, Infratic, El Taco Man, Dirk Chocolate, Carbon Shadow, and Hoodie Pete. Then out of this race are B-Roy, Punju, Rasin Chai, and Liam. So there we are then. That is the full rundown of things so far. And you have to say, of all the drivers here today, I think that so far my driver of the day would be going to either the driver in second or third here today. They have done absolutely sensationally well. Let's just remind you of their race story so far. Now, it doesn't look like much from Safso here, going from 4th to 2nd, but they've kept it clean, they've kept it consistent, they have done all of the right things as far as strategy is concerned, and that is what's kept them in the race. And now what is effectively the lead of the race, given those time penalties for Flexi. Then behind them, we have Jorrit, who started 14th, is now in 3rd. And it's an incredible jump up the order there. Gareth with the obscure fact alert saying that McLaren are yet to score 2nd place this season. Based on the timing gaps right now, they still wouldn't score 2nd because Safso would take the win here today. And so,
Surely
as
that
it is
can't
then...
be true.
I mean, you would think not, but it's apparently the I'm going to believe Gareth because he's got access to these things that I don't.
It is entirely true. It is entirely true. What? That is an obscure fact. That is incredible.
Is.
I definitely thought I saw Safso in 2nd place at one point. At the end of a race, obviously. But safety car is peeled off, and now we got the restart. Flexi in charge, and he goes early.
He certainly does. The back end stepping out on the first 3 cars as they get underway once again here in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And for the chasing pack, they just need to stay within 6 seconds of Flexi in order to bring home the bacon here today. And as it is then, they head down in towards Samburello, and there are no major overtaking opportunities that we're seeing throughout this field. Matty is the closest of anybody, close to the back of Mr. Dale. And as they go through, you can see in the background there, all sorts going on there with Bushy Ants off of the circuit. Gullis again overtaking their teammate. As now down and towards Villeneuve they go. There's yellow flags, there's green flags, there's all sorts of flags going on, as in there's brief contact between the 2 of them that are fighting here. As now down towards Tosa they go, and they've been able to get the move done. Have Matty up ahead of Mr. Dale, who's struggling on those intermediate tyres. Then we've got Tom right in the Alpine behind that Aston Martin, trying their best now to get themselves past. We've got Infratic and Dirk Chocolate fighting in behind, both on those intermediate tyres. Haven't gone for the full wets on this occasion. And now then, as Tom makes their way by the Aston Martin, El Taco Man is now going to have a think about getting by too, and so too is Gullis. Gullis is now going to have to try and get themselves back and in front of these 2 cars in front, so then that way they can be back into the lead of this race. Into the points, I should say, in this race. And look at this! Gullis with a great move up the inside, taking advantage of both Taco Man and of Dale there, going slow up the hill. And then in the background, you can see then Dale is going to have to defend once more, then banging wheels side by side, and into the wall. It's all over for Mr. Dale as they are taken out of the race by the driver there of El Taco Man, and that means it is curtains as far as their race is concerned. Sasso now is going to have to fight for their life here. They're still within that 6 seconds of Flexi here, but they have the threat of Jorrit van Heffen behind. And now then, as they go down in towards turn number 1, here they go, and it's all as they were for the time being. And further down the order, you can see then that Gillen is not making those inroads that they need on GB68 right now. They're close, but not close enough. Ben Daly is close in behind too at this stage, but they're not able to really make anything happen right now. It's not going to be good enough here for them. And as it is then, look at this, Jorrit van Heffen now just within a tenth or two of the back of Sasso. This is going to be the real fight for the win here between these two drivers, as it's going to be one of these things here down towards the end. Let's just keep an eye on all that is going on in this race then. As further back, you can keep an eye on those timing deltas. Gillen versus Marduk, and the two of them going hammer and tong with one another as they go up the hill, back out of Aqua Minerale, just behind this fight that we're watching here. Jorrit van Heffen trying their absolute damnedest, trying to make something happen, force a mistake from Sasso, but it's not going to happen. It looks like Sasso is in the clear. They've got just 2 more corners to go. Ravazza 1, Ravazza 2. That's all they need, and they will then bring home the win in this one here today. Up at the front of the field, it will be Flexi who will come round the final turn and will take the win on track here today. But behind them, running to the line, it will be Sasso. Sasso takes the win here in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix ahead of Jorrit van Heffen, and Alex Gillen manages to get themselves onto the podium ahead of Flexi, and crucially for their championship hopes, Tiamat Marduk is now down in 5th place and just a little bit further back, losing more points to their rival. Then GB68, then Matty, then Tom, then Hayden Gullis in P9 with a great move there at the end to secure that position. Then El Taco Man in P10, then Infratic and Dirk Chocolate. The two Red Bulls a long way off the back with those intermediate tyres. I'd lie, they weren't a long way off the back. It's just SimHub doing SimHub things. Then Carbon Shadow, and then Hoodie Pete down in 14th position.
What a mental race once again. Safso, the reigning champion, finally winning his first race in Season 2, as he is now getting closer into the championship fight. Remember, I was saying after the last race that we basically have a championship 7. 7th in that championship 7 was Safso. He just won. 6th in that championship 7 was Van Heffen. He just got 2nd place. What does that mean? It means everybody got a little bit closer together, and that is what we want to see. Safso now on 115 points, Van Heffen on 117, GB68. I'm waiting for the results to come in fully, but he finished P6. Or at least that's what it says on my screen. So that's 8 points. So he's on 117 as well. So they are tied for 5th. Bushy remains on 124, unfortunately, after his late retirement. We've got Alex Gillen back in the lead of the standings. At let me just check this real quick. Yep, 15 points. So he's on 154. Tiamat Marduk 148. Meraki 144. So we have a big split between the top 3 and P4 to P7 right now. But with a couple races to go, anything can still change. Anything is still up for grabs. We have 3 more races. Monaco. Yes, you heard that right. We're sending these lot around Monaco for 78 laps. Prepare for safety cars. Barcelona and Austria as the Season 2 and F1 22 Creator Series finale. Safso wins. What a race for him. Van Heffen in 2nd. And once again, no McLaren in P2. And Alex Gillen P3. What a drive, however. And personally for me, driver of the day is Flexi. P4. He had 6 seconds of penalties. He drove out enough of time to finish P4.
I'm just going to jump across you here, Badger, because we just want to run through the rest of the results. So we've got Ben Daly in 5th, then GB, then Matty D, then Tom, then Hayden, then El Taco Man, Infratic, Dirk Chocolate, Carbon Shadow, Hoodie Pete, Mr. Dale, Bushy Ants, B. Roy, Punju, Racin, and then Liam. So there we go then. That is the full rundown of your order. Back over to you there, Badger.
Yeah, no, I was finished.
Oh, you were very well. There we go. I wasn't interrupting anything at all. As it is, then that has been and I'm going to scroll back up here because someone did post the full official name of the race. But that has been the Creator Series Formula One Qatar Airways Gran Premio del Made in Italy e dell'Emilia Romagna Grand Prix 2023. Hurrah.
Yes.
So there we go then. Now, as a reminder for everybody, because just before we go to the clip book and then to interviews and things like that, of course, this has all been against the backdrop of what has been going on in Emilia-Romagna, not in the virtual world, but in the real world this week and this weekend, and in the last few weeks, in fact, as well. It has been bad over there. And so above my head right now is the QR code that you can use. I'm sure in chat that we're going to end up posting some links as well in the not-too-distant future. Either Harry or Miss Formula One, I would imagine, is going to end up doing that. And they are all there to direct you towards efforts to help the relief and help with donations and other charitable funds to go towards helping all the people in that region. We really, really, really want people to help out with that. That has really been beyond what we usually do here tonight. We have wanted to go in and put this charity effort front and center, and I feel like we have been able to do that over the course of this broadcast. So hopefully, if somebody has ended up donating something, then overall, we as a community have made a bit of a difference and made the world just a bit brighter than it was before this broadcast. So that's that there. But back to the action then, and what we're going to do is we're going to have a look now over to Gareth. Gareth, talk us through all that was going on there in the last section of the race.
It was a absolutely amazing end to the race. Thank for God for that safety car. It's really spiced things up. But straight away, let's jump into Bushy Ants. He was struggling before the safety car even came back in, and he was on those intermediate tyres, of course, and sat in second position at the start. It just went bad. Drive through, spins with wing chains, and then this intermediate gamble that just didn't work out. And you can see 4 wide behind. They're already getting really punchy. And then Bushy Ants makes a mistake into Tamburello and goes straight on. And he just retired the car himself. A little bit angry with it, and seeing the points slip away, felt no reason to run the rest of this race. We also have El Tacoman's view of all of that, getting super punchy with Hayden Gillis and Tom on the restart, down to turn 1. He comes across this kind of stricken car. Tom's slow because he doesn't know what Bushy's doing, all over the place, wobbly on those wet tyres, on the outside of Hayden Gillis. There's more contact between the two, and El Taco Man wins out down into the Villeneuve chicane, and we'll feel very happy with that one until, of course, he came a cropper, another intermediate runner, Dale, just ahead. We saw and chronicled his difficult time on the stream, and there was contact on the exit of Aquamanali. Hayden Gillis goes flying up the outside, and then of course we see El Taco Man get a bit feisty. Dale falls over him, and that ends his day. There we are, Dale ending up in the wall. Name a better duo. I don't think you'll be able to find one. Yorick Van Geffen, I want to go back to the people who won and came onto the podium. Yorick was super happy. You can see how much it meant to Yorick, and I also want to jump over to Safso's reaction. Of course, our reigning champion, he's not had the best of years, but he was buzzing. He was absolutely buzzing with that one. You could hear him shouting the house down. So congratulations to Safso. Great to see him back on the podium today. And what a race we had. Thank you very much for having me again. Thank you for everyone for getting the clips in and helping out while Twitch didn't let me clip, and Melanie and Harry and all sorts of people getting the clips in today. And it's really great to see. So thank you very much to everyone in chat.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Gareth. You have been completely indispensable today, and might I say, looking absolutely fantastic as well, sir. But there we go then. So let's I tell you what, chat. Let's have some W's in the chat for Gareth here today. And in case those of you who have come over as a result of the raid do not know, Badgerman is going to be a race engineer in F1 esports. So some W's for both of my co-commentators here this evening, please.
Quick correction. Not a race engineer, a data analyst. But,
data analyst.
Yeah.
Regardless, he's going to be in F1 esports, everybody. Put the W's there in the chat. So that's that then. And now then, let's take a look at some interviews then. So first of all, well, given that we don't have third place in the VC right now, how about we swap things around? We go for our race winner first of all. And here he is. So, Safso, Very, very, very well done. And driver of the day, in my opinion at least. I don't know how the poll ended up turning out, but how did that one go from your perspective?
For once, very well. Finally. I said after the race, finally, something's gone right this season. Qualifying was definitely, I don't think it was the best, but it was one of the best I've had. And then, yeah, just through the race, very in terms of like decisions throughout the race, very few mistakes. Obviously, there was the odd wobble with the rear end, so in terms of that way, there was a lot. But decision-wise, when I pit for what I like, as soon as I realized how bad the hards were, I was like, okay, I need to get off this at the earliest safety car. Like, and luckily it came in a good spot. It was like the perfect time to go medium. Yeah, as soon as I was onto those mediums and just doing the strategy at least well, I'm not sure if I did it properly. I'm sure Badger will berate it for hours. But yeah, no, it was right distance, right time. Obviously, got very lucky as well. Ben going too long in the mediums because he was waiting for a safety car. Alex going too late onto the wets. Flex having the 6 seconds. Obviously, there's luck, but at the same time, with luck, you need to be in the best position you can be to take that luck. And luckily, I was in that position. I thought Yorit was going to get me because him having line in the wet, I thought I didn't have a chance against that. For me, he's driver of the day because he came from 14th and very nearly won the race. Yeah, finally a good race.
Well, we can hear the relief in your voice at least. I mean, it was a great, great effort all around from you. Just talk us through. Excuse me there as I belch into the microphone. That's a wonderful thing. But yes, let's just talk us through then in terms of that transition over into those wet conditions. Of course, we saw on stream here, we were having a look at that weather broadcast and things like that, and forecast, I should say, and seeing, how things were going to evolve. We were going to end up going to those inters conditions, but then not long after that, those big full storm conditions. And so, how was it for you in terms of trying to keep that all under control when, of course, in the dry, as you already mentioned, you already had the back end stepping out on you in those conditions?
Yeah, it was tricky. I think it was actually, for some reason, feeling trickier in the inters than the wets. The wets I actually felt somewhat comfortable, just obviously didn't have the pace of Flexi. His pace is mind-blowing. Yeah, like I think I even turned up the diff 10% more than it was at the start to help, and it was still pretty slippy. And in terms of going onto the wets, it was as soon as I heard the rain was only going to get worse and there were standing puddles coming, I was like, okay, by the time the safety car ends, it's definitely going to be time for wets. Like it felt, I sort of alluded to it during it, but it was somewhat alluding to Singapore last season, where there was rain after the safety car. Obviously, this one was much more obvious; people could see it coming. But just that kind of thing of, if he didn't go to the wets, I mean, just look at what happened to Gillen. He probably would have won by a landslide if he came in when all the rest of us did. I'm not quite sure why he didn't. Maybe he thought it was going to stay inters for long enough. I don't know if it's because he saw everyone else coming in for wets and then pitted. But yeah, no, it was just all about knowing when the rain would come, and then yeah. So I probably completely deviated from the original question, but it was pretty tricky to, especially to try and avoid warnings, because I was on 2 warnings for like I'd say probably 70% of the race. Obviously, again, people with the data can say the actual amount, but for a lot of that race, I was holding 2 warnings, being very careful if I went off to then make sure I didn't lose enough time. And in the wets, a little bit tricky.
A little bit. Just a little,
just a little bit. Just a wee little bit.
Just a little bit. But yeah, there we go then. Well, you managed to keep it all together and you managed to get the win. Your first win of the season, as Badger pointed out a little bit earlier on in commentary too. And speaking of Badger, questions for our race winner?
Not really questions. The one thing I do want to say is I would never berate you, Safsa. That treatment is reserved for your teammate.
Lovely.
But no, I honestly, looking at your strategy, I think putting under safety car, right call. Getting off those mediums, get a good chunk of running out of your second medium stint. I think there was nothing wrong with your strategy overall. Yeah, just overall, yeah, again, nothing wrong. You got good running out of each tire, and ultimately that's what you want. What you don't want, and I think we're going to get to that. He is in the waiting room, and I'm waiting for that. What you don't want is not getting any good running out of a tire. So yeah. A soft stint that lasts about 3 laps is, for example, the worst thing you could ask for, unless it's the last 3 laps of the race, which it wasn't. But no, from you, well done. And I can actually confirm, Safsa, you have won the Driver of the Day vote as well.
There you go. There you go.
I was expecting Yorit to win that. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it was close. It was between the pair of you, in my opinion, at least. So very well done to you, regardless.
Thank you very much.
There we are then. Thanks very much for joining us, Saf. We will let you go, and we will bring in the driver you thought should be driver of the day, and the driver in second place at the end of this one, Mr. Jorrit Jan van Heffen. Let's get him in here. Jorrit, talk to us about that one, my friend, because that was a brilliant drive, going all the way from P14 up to P2, and just a hair's breadth away from the win there. Just talk us through your race.
Oh, that was an absolutely amazing race with great strategy, great pace. We didn't have as much safety cars as you're used to in the Creator Series. It's the same thing with the previous one in Silverstone. But yeah, I learned my lesson. I knew that it was going to rain in the end, of course. However, I decided to copy what GB and Bushi did the last race. This time, I did it, and it worked quite well. I drove the tires until 80% on the pit stop. I was glad to not have a puncture. I can tell you that at the end, when it was like starting to drizzle a little bit, I was getting like flips on the rear, like incredibly. But it was so much fun to see that difference where, for example, Ben overtook me on the mediums, and then you can see that the mediums had lost their shine, and I started catching back up to him. So it's very different to what you're used to with like safety cars and where do we go from here, instead of, okay, this is a bit more of a endurance race where you really have to stay focused, make no mistakes. I only got one warning at the end because I was using the warnings I had available to me. So yeah, it was so much fun. And massive congrats to Safso. I'm so happy for him. It was just an amazingly fun race, that.
Excellent, very good indeed. I'm surprised. I mean, I suppose it's the sign of the Creator Series, really, where drivers congratulate one another and are so happy for one another to win a race. And we want to sit here and be like, no, drama, create drama, hate him. That's not the way it works. And in terms of that drive, of course, long stints for you right up until the end there. Was there a point where you thought to yourself, this is actually not the good idea. This is all gone against me now?
There was a lot of doubting in my head. There was, holy crap, I might win this if the rain comes down now. But there was also, please go rain, because I'm gonna get a puncture. So it was very much between that. And at some point, the DRS got disabled, and that's when you know it's time to box. And my head went, please, not on the in lap. Do not explode. And I was into the pits, and as the car drove through the pit lane, I thanked myself. I thanked the Lord. No puncture. And I applauded myself for that incredible hard stint I was able to pull off from P14.
Absolutely, you were. Absolutely. Badger, any questions at all for our P2 driver?
Yes, the first thing, a bit of clarification, because I just had a look at the data. You actually entered the pits with one tire on 81, at least one tire, I should say, on 81%.
Mm-hmm.
That is deep into puncture territory, which usually starts at 75. So,
Yeah,
you were lucky. Absolutely incredible. At some point, were you not thinking maybe it's better to just swap onto mediums and try to go until the rain hits, or were you just saying, "Nah, I'm staying committed here"?
The doubts were going through my head, like maybe I should pit to softs for safety, but then I thought, like, softs, that's safe. It sounds boring. How great of a story would it be to bring those hearts to the end and see where we end up? And you never know when Mr. Dale was still in the race, so there was still a safety car available. So you never know. You never know. That's why you don't pit on times like that. Mr. Dale is still in the race. There's still a safety card, basically safety car card available. And it might happen at any moment, and who knows, the rain comes down, it's approximate, we don't have the telemetry, we're not allowed to look. I'm heavily communicating with my engineer, who told me, "Yeah, rain's gonna come in 15 minutes." Well, 30 minutes later, you know. But hey, that's why we love Mark.
Oh man.
Very good, very good. Well, I think
And
that.
then
Sorry,
I do
after
have
you,
one more
Badger.
question. Joey, after this P2, will you play the flute?
Just for you guys. Just
Yes.
for you
Yes.
guys.
Perfect.
I'm grabbing it.
Oh dear, I think his Discord microphone has decided to cancel all
No.
of it out.
It's hating it.
Oh
Please.
dear.
Please.
We can see
Go
him lighting
through.
up, but nothing. Oh, there we go.
Please.
It's very quiet.
I hate Discord. Why you gotta be like this, ruining my fun?
We
Please.
get just the beginning of a note, and that's about it.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
all
I'm
it
gonna
gives
play you
us.
my favorite note.
There we go. Excellent.
Yeah,
Well, thank you very much for that, then, Yorick. We will let you go, and well, we'll speak to now the McLaren driver who finished behind you instead of in front of you. So, thanks very much for joining us. So, Badger, if you would be so kind, let's bring in the man that we now have to shame in front of all these wonderful people watching, Mr. Daly.
I've been chosen.
What on earth happened there, Sunshine? What was that? Talk us through. I mean, firstly, the thing that everybody is going to be wondering who wasn't watching your stream at the time, why that late pit stop onto the softs?
I was going for some 200 IQ plays, and I was going for fastest lap. I knew there'd be a safety car, so I thought, the race is going to reset. I may as well get myself a bonus point, lock that in, and then halfway through the fastest lap attempt, the heavens opened very quickly. I missed out on fastest lap by 2/10. I was very sad.
Oh dear, oh dear. And then, of course, there was the sort of the delayed decisions, shall we say, over the course of the race in terms of going into the pit lane. First of all, in the first safety car, and then we've had during that switch over to wet conditions when we went from inters to wets. Why was there the delay on your part?
First one, all the leaders stayed out, which made me go, oh, why are they doing that? And so I thought I just stayed out because they did. And then I thought, no, I should really stop because I'm on the softs and they didn't feel great. So I went to mediums then. And then going to wets, I feel like I didn't react late there. Badger's very upset.
Maybe it was the,
Yeah,
maybe it was the change to ends as possible. I don't know. After
Okay,
you, Badger.
to bring it, to make a little bit of sense of it, with the last pit stop onto wets, you stayed out the first time, then pitted the second time. But that is actually the one that I personally have the least problem with, because the top 5 were past the safety car, so you had an extra lap to decide and to choose. So you didn't lose anything from that. That was totally okay, totally fine. That pit stop onto softs. I mean, how many people in chat did you have that told you no, don't do that?
It was probably like 95% saying no, but I was really trying hard to convince them.
I wonder why they said no.
if I pulled it off one lap earlier, it would have been perfect.
Yeah, but even then, you would have lost all those positions for 1 point more, but all those positions would have made you lose.
Yeah, but like I was in a very critical fuel position, and everyone in that train was right behind me anyway, so I was going to get overtaken. So I thought,
yeah, but Mr. Dale was still in the race, so you could have hoped for another safety car.
Yeah,
sorry, Mr. Dale. He's just catching strays today. It's just
that's why I did it, because he was still in the race, and I knew there'd be another safety car. So essentially I thought,
well, then you weren't in a bad fuel position.
Sorry.
Then you weren't in a bad fuel position, knowing that Mr. Dale's in safety cars likely could have saved then.
But then it got dire. Then it was like 10 laps to go, and he just saved like 2 laps of fuel.
Yeah, but here's then my next question: how does pitting for softs help with the fuel?
Well, you trundle through the pit lane, and you save fuel while you're through the pit lane. So like I don't know.
Save 0.05 laps. Maybe
every little counts.
Yeah, no.
I'll tell you what, Ben, you sounded the most confident I've ever heard you sound when you answered that question. That was a well thought and a solid answer, one that you really truly believed in. I could tell.
Yeah, I mean, I've made some good strategy decisions this season, but today was
When?
not one of them. Today was an off day. I'll be back to it. I'll be back to my best at Monaco.
I
Well,
mean,
there
you
we go
better.
then.
Monaco is a strategy slaughterhouse, if anything. One wrong strategy, one wrong call, and you can't overtake. So yeah,
I
you
can.
better get it right.
No, well, fighting talk from Mr. Daly there.
I'm
Um,
so looking forward to Monaco, simply for the strategy, for the overtaking, for everything. It's going to be amazing.
That was then what I was going to finish with, really, because, of course, with Monaco, as you have demonstrated time and time again in all of your content, you are right. You are quick around there. I think I remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but back on F1 2016 in the McLaren Honda, when the engine upgrades weren't even being applied because of a glitch in the game, you were still getting, pole or into the top 5 or something like that in qualifying. So against a bunch of creators on equal level cars, you're going to be reasonably quick, I would imagine. And it seemed like today you got over a bit of a qualifying hump. You were up in the top 5 in qualifying, whereas in previous rounds it's not quite gone your way.
Yeah, I shook that monkey off my back, so we moved to Monaco. I feel like I usually am pretty good at Monaco, but I'm kind of washed on this year's game. So I'll do some extra practice to make sure I'm at my best.
Well, there we are then. Well, there you are, folks. There's the promise from Mr. Daly. He is going to practice between now and the next one. Thanks very much for joining us, Ben. It's been good to hear from you, both the good and the bad, and hopefully it's all going to be good in Monaco.
Cheers, guys. See you next week.
See you then. Bye-bye. So, last but not least, we have Tom is wanting to jump in and have a little chat to us. So why don't we go ahead and bring him in? And there he is. And I tell you what, we can even bring up his camera like we did with Yorit earlier on. So let me just switch us over to that one. Tom, there you are then. Unfortunately, it's not on a big, huge screen. You're just a tiny little camera in the bottom there that we use for during the race. But talk us through that one from your perspective, because there seemed to be highs and there seemed to be lows. Talk us through.
Mate, that was just lows from my end. I did I normally am not involved in huge crashes, right? But this time around, I caused the huge crash. Okay, like I'll take it to the chin. That was my fault. Like that crash was my fault. Unfortunately, I took out a couple people with me. I think so. I mean, my fault. But after that, I got rear wing damage. So lap 1, rear wing damage, and unexplainable. But rear wing damage, and oh my goodness, like it was so tough. It was like full yellow rear wing damage, and it was so tough to keep the car in control because I had a setup that was like it was meowing in the flipping straight. It was already super quick, and then when I got the rear wing damage, I basically had like 5 rear wing out of 50. So it was like, and especially when the rain hit, I was struggling. But I decided at the very start to say like, "Yo, Tom, don't give up." I asked my chat, "What did we never do?" And then they said, "We never win," so that was great. But yeah, we kept going, and I got P8 in the end. Like literally unbelievable. I feel like for me, this felt better than getting a win or a podium. I've not gotten a podium yet. I feel like this felt better than a podium. That P8 that I got, crazy.
Absolutely. Now, there were points in that race where we were looking on board or off board at your car in particular, because you had a great battle with El Taco Man. Fight back and forth between you guys. It's great to have seen on YouTube earlier on F1 uploading the race from 2005, because that was of course Ferrari versus Team Enstone, which is essentially what Alpine is. Yep. And so we saw a bit more of that today, just unfortunately not at the front. The thing which I found particularly interesting about that one is you were on these medium tires, the same age as Taco Man's hards, and yet you were still able to repass him at various points.
So that was the thing, right? I was super slow in the slow section where it was literally impossible to overtake because I was putting the car in the middle of the track almost everywhere. And on the straight, I was so quick. I feel like I have to be. I was probably going to be in P1 of the speed trap, because my car, I could have overtaken everyone if I was close. Like I didn't even have to use ERS, whatever. And I just got past the entire time. So even if he overtook me, I was like, I'm just going to stay here and pass him. But yeah, that fight was awesome with Taco Man. We were back and forth the entire time, very clean, up until some point when he hit me in the back. But I mean, it was a fun fight. It was a lot of chaos, I think, also from your side's POV in the rest of the grid.
Absolutely, yeah. And not Dirk, sorry, that's the person in charge that I've just been messaging. Badger, any questions from your part for Tom?
Honestly, not really. Everything that was, I think,
interesting to talk about. You've already asked, especially that battle with Taco. That was incredible. Back and forth. That was beautiful. But yeah, one thing I'm actually seeing here, of all the drivers that have finished, nobody had more pit stops than you, Tom, with 5.
Are there 5 pit stops?
Yeah.
This race?
Lap 1,
Huh?
safety car, lap 9. Then you pitted
Wait,
for
what?
softs.
It's like Baku all over again.
Yeah, then you pitted for inters, and then you pitted for wets. That's 5.
Oh dang! Yeah, I mean, I made the right calls. Like it was perfect because I remember, like, if I didn't go onto the wet tires at that point when I did, like, I would have been done because, like, I was struggling so much with the pace. Everything went my way really after I crashed. So yeah.
Can I now I do have a question now that you mention it. What made you go on to the wets? What made you decide, you know, this is probably a good
struggling.
call?
I was like, look, if I don't go wet right now, they're gonna overtake me. And like I knew that the rain was just gonna get worse because we saw at the start of the race at the top, right? There was heavy rain at the end with like the icon, right? So I was like, at the end of the race, it's gonna be heavy rain. And I believe it was a safety car, right? And then everybody started pitting, or maybe even I pit before.
But it was during the safety car.
Okay, yeah. So during the safety car, so I made sure to pit because I was like, "Yo, some people are gonna try to get the position, but they're gonna struggle at the end," which they did. Like you saw, like Bushy on the restart. I don't know if you saw it on the commentary on the broadcast, but he was like out of nowhere. I was like, "Yo, come on, hurry up!" Because everybody got penalties. I wanted to stay close. So no, but I think like this race, everybody was super clean. So. Unless besides me in the first lap, but I think it was an awesome race. The guys did great.
Speaking of that first lap, we have Hoodie Pete in the chat asking, can Tom explain his dive bomb into the chicane on me?
No, that was not a dive bomb. I was there. The guy... No. Okay, look, we can watch it back later, but that was not my fault, okay? I got involved in a lot of incidents this race, though, but that was not my fault. I'll take to the chin the first lap, but that one was not my fault.
And then he said, I want an on-air apology from Tom.
No, we are not getting an on-air apology. You should apologize. Oh my goodness.
It's fun when you get to stoke the flames a little bit.
All fun and games aside, like it was awesome. It was a very fun race.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you're moving up the standings a little bit. You're up to P16 now. You were 17th after the last
P16,
race.
easy top 3. What's going on here then? No way.
To be fair, you're still 3 points behind Tom 97, who's done 1 race.
Oh, why did you have to tell this to everyone?
Because to give you another target, you're only 3 points behind him.
Fair enough.
1 P8, and you're in front.
I'll do that next. Oh, I'm not gonna be there next race actually.
Well, you got 3 races left.
True.
It might be good that you're missing Monaco. To be fair,
yeah. I'll save myself from the chaos.
Absolutely. Well, brilliant. It's been great to speak to you. As always, you're a lovely man, as is everybody else who's come in and had a chat with us. Of course, I'm not playing favourites. But I do love Tom. Let's wrap up then. Thanks very much, Tom, for joining us there then. And thank you very much, all of you at home, for watching along. The sun has gone down ever since the race ended here in the UK, so that's why it's gotten progressively more lit from the monitors as opposed to lit from the outside for me. But Badger, of course, is just in the wonderful world of green screen, so he's fine.
Just that, I also have artificial lighting.
There's that too. There is that too. But what we're going to do then is we are going to leave ourselves on the in a few moments' time. We're going to leave ourselves on the end screen so you guys at home can see more to do with this QR code above me here, which again is going to link you towards all the relief efforts and areas to donate and things like that for the Emilia-Romagna region. And then about a minute or two after that's been on the screen, Dirk will then raid whoever we're going to go and raid next. So stick around, maybe get yourself a cup of tea or something like that if you've already donated, or if you can't donate, or if you've already got the information or something like that, and you just want to pass the time for a minute or two. But before we go to that, Badger, where can the good people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at BadgermanTV, this time without the 3. I actually changed my handle on Twitter. I'm trying to get that handle on Twitch as well. It's not quite happening yet, but
I've got my eyes on it. But yeah, on Twitter at Badgerman TV. On here on Twitch at Badgerman with the 3 instead of the E in the middle, and you can find me stream a lot of F1 Manager, which I think, you know, joining F1 Esports as a data analyst, I think I know a thing or two about F1 Manager. So if you want to learn something, you know, have questions about the game, whatever, you can always ask me.
Absolutely, yes, you can. And Gareth, if you're still there with us, I certainly hope he is. He's unmuted himself on Discord, so I hope so. Let me change over to you. Again, you're not going to quite have an enormous camera like the drivers we've just been interviewing. We'll set all that up for next week. But where can the good people find you, Gareth?
Yeah, it's on Twitter at Gareth Allen TV. Very simple. No freeze, no nothing.
Hey,
maybe I'll put a 3 in there for next week somewhere.
Hey,
hey, that's my thing, says Badger.
Exactly. Leave that to me.
Well, that's that then. So that's where you can find those two guys. You can find me over on Instagram at DA Gilligan, and then over on twitch.tv/Daniel Gilligan. Like how my name is spelt underneath me right now, just without the space. I don't have any 1s or 7s or other numbers in mine either, so there we go. No messing about. But that has been our show this evening. As I say, we're going to show up that charity info for the next sort of 30, 60 seconds, something like that, so you guys can take a good look at it, and then Dirk is going to go ahead and raid us to whoever we're going to next. But from me, myself, and the team, a great big thank you for joining us this evening, and hopefully, as a community, we've done some good for the people of Emilia-Romagna tonight with our efforts. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, and wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, and good night.